Oh, hello?
Hello.
Yep. All right, everyone. Welcome to the final power ranking. I forgot to change the sidebar. Pretend that doesn't say season 5, but it is the final power ranking of season 4. Today I'm joined by none other than Fleeker. I can't remember the Push and LP nickname that was on the Giuseppe Hack post, but Push and
Oh,
LP and Soulpant. What was it?
Unwakeable Demon King.
Oh, the Unwakeable Demon King. Perfect. Yeah. Uh, yes, only fourless. True. But anyways, this power ranking is going to be a little bit different. We'll be doing it like the same way standardly, except at the very beginning, I asked everyone, their input on community rankings, and I've never done this before. And today, well, might be the first and only time, but we'll see. Honestly, after like I got like 20 submissions last second. The community rankings turned out a lot better than initially thought. So, without further ado, let me just go through and ask each of you guys like how you thought the season went so far. I'll start with Faye.
Hmm. I thought the season. I honestly didn't think that we would have made it till finals, to be honest. But it didn't go what I thought it would go. But I'm really happy how it went.
All right, Dan, you're on the same team.
Um, yeah, as far as like the season overall, I think it went pretty well. I think there were a lot of teams that like actually had a chance to make it really deep, um, or at least like half the teams, which I think was cool to see. Um, yeah, I think I maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like compared to last season, I feel like there was just like a lot more engagement and like interest in things in general, even outside of games, and it was a lot of fun.
All right, and then Monster CEO himself, Soulpan.
Obviously, an earlier person I would have liked. We were really looking forward to the Devs versus Monsters Inc. Matchup, but it just wasn't meant to be. So Froggy Fighters had to carry the pride of
Exactly.
Group B on their backs, and overall, I think I agree with Bush. And I mean, it was super competitive. It was a lot of fun. So good times all around.
All right. With that, we'll actually show. We're gonna start off with top lane as per usual. I know people are asking for a reverse. That's not happening. Okay. All right. With that, we'll start with the community rankings. And honestly, just looking at the rankings here, we see Bricks at. Or let me explain it real quick. Actually, so I put the average like amount of vote, or like the average like vote count. Or not vote count. Sorry, like the average rank of like where people put like everyone at, and I would say like top was like pretty close between like a few people, but other than that, it was like this is pretty expected, is what I would say based on like how I viewed the season at least. The other roles will not be so close or similar, but anyways, for the community, they voted Bricks number 10, So Much Dog number 9, 8 Volgarath, 7 Master L, 6 Dopus, 5 X-Ray, which honestly, I thought people were gonna shit on X-Ray more. But anyways, 4 Push and LP, 3 Injustice, 2 David DV4 VP 2015, and 1 Tim T Money. So, just looking at these, you guys like really see any big surprises? I would say in comparison to your own rankings.
Personally, I have Master L a little bit higher, but
I okay.
um,
Don't spoil
other
it
than
all
that,
yet.
I think that's about it.
All right. And with that, I think we'll actually just like start showing number 10. I think we all agree Bricks. And honestly, it's very hard for him to be anywhere else considering that he is I think he's actually the lowest ranked La Liga player, and it's not anything against him, but I think like the average competition level of the Liga is like it generally gets higher with every season, and so it just makes it hard for him to compete. Not that I think he like did bad for his rank, honestly. He actually did pretty good for like his rank compared to like everyone else. Um, yeah.
If
But
you
unlike
check
you.
his OPGG, he's actually been climbing, and
Oh really?
from like yeah, and from like week 1 to last week, I think he got a lot better.
Okay, that's also true. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to say about Bricks?
I mean, Erie is climbing. I mean, that's a big part of La Liga is you get to play against people that are often better than you, and that's honestly probably the quickest way to learn the game is through some quick, brutal lane bashings by people like Timothy and D before VP. So
Mhm.
props to Bricks for sticking through it.
Yeah, I hope he joins next season, and we'll see how much he improves.
He's gonna be like pushing LP, dude. Like he's gonna be like silver 4, and then he's gonna be plat next season. It's time. All right, with that,
Mhm.
we'll show number 9. This is where I have so much dog, and for me personally, I think it was really close between so much dog, Volgarath, and let's say Master L. And that's mainly because like they either had really like hard pop off games, or they really entered their face off, or were super behind and couldn't really do anything for their team, unless they were playing Ornn, which maybe you should lock that in every game, like some of these other top laners above us. Um, for Faye, she has Dopus down here. I would like to ask why.
I'm sorry, like most of the games I watched that he played, he kind of didn't do so well. I'm sorry, but I'm sure he like gave his best and everything.
There is no apologies here. Just put him in the dirt where he belongs. All right. Anyways, continuing on, we have Dan and Paul both putting Francis at number 9. Just want to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
This was super close for me, actually, between him and Casey. I think they could flip like any minute. I think Casey edges out a little bit just because he does have the threat of like picking Riven or picking like something like Riven and actually trying to be a threat on top side. I feel like the only thing, like the most threatening thing I've seen Volgrath on is Mord, which I think he plays pretty decently, but I think Casey can still bring a little bit more. And I also think Casey's Ornn is better. So
Okay. Anything to add on, Paul?
You're gonna find that a lot of my rankings are gonna be based around um, what I value, which is a player's ability to kind of pop off and hard carry a game. And I just didn't see a whole lot of it come out of Volgrath. I didn't feel like he ever generated his own leads.
Yep.
Like he can hold his own in lane. I think he's an excellent weak side player, but I never saw him take Mordekaiser and just run through a game bomb on his own.
yeah.
That is fair. All right. With that, we have at number 8 on my list, and this is exactly what you were talking about earlier. I have Francis here, and it's basically just a flip flop. I really don't think like in terms of like their performance, it was really all that different. I just saw a little bit like of better trading patterns in lane from Francis than so much dog. But yeah,
Did you see that message in the chat, Wujin?
which one?
Metrics for top: number 1
Oh.
CS, number 2 kills, number 3 Ornn proficiency.
Oh yes, that's true. That's true.
Wow.
Francis did not lock in Ornn, so maybe I should have put him at number 9. So, but anyways, and then the rest of you guys have so much dog, and I'm guessing it's for the same reasons as me, really. Did you guys have anything else you want to like add on to that? I know Dan already like talked about Casey a little bit. And with that, we'll just move on at number 7. That's where I have Master L. Honestly, I feel like, in general, like, Obelisk of Obsidian's team is very hard to, like, rate with, like, I would say an unbiased perspective, and that's the main reason is because they lose games very hard, besides maybe a few, like, one or two. But I would say Master L was like a bright point of their team, and it was kind of like for their team, they always relied on either Germ BM to like make really good like ganks with Zac, or just other champions in general to try to generate leads in their solo lanes, or Logic or Master L would have to pop off and completely carry the game. That being said, I feel like he could have played like some of his picks like Jax better into like other teams, but honestly, like he kind of had the short end of the stick, so I don't really know what else to say. You have anything to add on to that, Faye?
No, I agree. He was definitely one of the backbones of his team. I feel like because he was on that team, he was probably not seen as great as he could be, or as he probably is. I wanted to rate him higher because the last game he played, I think he did really well.
Yeah. Like you said, I think it's really hard to rate like the entirety of Obelisk of Obsidian. I think Master L in particular, I think at his highs, like he's really really good, but at their lows, they're pretty bad. And I think that's also just like an Obelisk thing, not a Master L thing. And like I could totally see him being somebody that like goes pretty crazy next season. So that's why, especially with Shojin
Yeah.
back, so that's why I put
Oh,
him a little
God.
bit higher. I tried to look at people's like highs, and that's why I have him a little bit higher.
All right. And then, do you guys have anything else to say like about Dopest? I guess because kind of talked about him a little bit, but
It's like I feel like whenever I would tune into a Dopest game, it would be like he'd be playing weak side and then just get soloed anyways. I know that he has carry potential because I play with him in past tournaments.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just not around anymore because he doesn't play as much. But I think that he has potential that's there, but we just haven't seen a lot of it.
fair.
Yeah, I think part of this is Dopest being like on weak side duty, especially with how his team was structured. But I also think a lot of it is like he doesn't play that much anymore, and I think you can just kind of like see it.
All right. With that, this is where I talk about Dopest. I think Chris is just washed up, and honestly, I'll just say it right now. It was between the two Chris's for me, but I can't really put Dopest above X-Ray this season. It hurts to say that, but I just think that even though Chris like Dopest doesn't play the game, if he's locking in tanks and trying to play for his team, that instantly adds value to his team, or he adds value to his team in that manner. It's kind of like what X-Ray does in that manner. It's not like we ever see X-Ray playing like. I guess he played like a few games of Mordekaiser, but other than that, it's not like we're actually seeing him lock in Camille or Fiora or anything like that. And that's the same with Dopest. Let's not talk about his fabled Aatrox gameplay. That we're gonna forget about that one. But that's exactly why I have him at number 6, another victim of the solo Bolo King. I got nothing else to say about him. All right. Yeah. We seem to have an outlier here. We have Francis at number 6 by Faye. Let's hear it. Come on.
I mean, it could be, it could have been, the Darius spot lane for me, but yeah, I don't know. I felt like he was pretty solid. Like he could hold his own. Maybe I'm wrong since you guys all have him so low. I felt like he held well. That's why I have him up, like at.
All right. And then we have X-Ray at number 6 for both Sulpan and Dan. You guys have been on top of it with picks on each other, by the way.
Yeah.
High five, pushing. Hang on, I
Let's
think
go.
you're over here for me.
No, it's the other way.
Oh no, it's mirrored. It's mirrored.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Unlucky. All right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think X-Ray is like for being weak side every single week. Number one, not like mentally imploding as a top laner. Props to him for being weak side every single week. I know I would have lost it. I think he's like one of the best weak side players for the top lane. I think he's gotten a lot better. I think he still has some things to improve on. But I mean, yeah, he like consistently gets like solo kills when you wouldn't expect him to. So, props to him.
All right. Anything to add on to that, Paul?
Not a whole lot. I mean, the solo kills were cool. I do think he's definitively better than everyone below him on my list.
Fair.
But it's like, I think kind of like my team, where people will be watching X-Ray and the members of ZWD to see how will they function without Rob next season. Kind of like how everyone's kind of watching my solo laners to see if it was jungle
Yep.
diff or if they actually are that good.
Okay. All right. With that, move on to number 5. And on my rankings and phase, that's where I have X-Ray, and it's for the same reason as you guys. I'm not so sure how X-Ray would thrive in an environment outside of like what he had this season with a very good jungler and like a mid lane who will also like play to his strong side and in bot lane. And obviously the best bot lane in La Liga, dare I say it. Not
Like the
dare I say
perfect
it.
situation to play
Yeah.
Ornn. Yeah.
And the biggest question is if this upcoming season is not a tank meta, will he be able to replicate the same success? And in my head, the answer is probably no, which is why he's probably not above any of the people. He's below all the people above him. But I will say he definitively played better than everyone else below him, and he even created like solo kills with just like being on the island alone. That being said, some of them were a result of people trying to dive Maokai and X-Ray pressing W on them under tower. So,
Oh man.
yeah. Anything else to add, Faye?
No, I agree with everything you said. That those are my exact same thoughts too.
Yep.
Oh,
The
I
W
wish I-
point and click mechanics.
Yeah.
All right, and then, man, you guys, Mastel at number 5 for Dan and Paul again, once again.
I don't know. I guess we talked to each other, but I don't remember it. I was probably sleeping. Anyway,
Oh, that would do it.
yeah, like I said, with the way you said to like structure these, Daniel, I just tried to put people like go off of people's highs, and I think Mastel had some really high highs.
Gotcha.
And I think he could possibly look better next season. And honestly, if it was just like 1v1, everybody on their best champs, I feel like he could deal with. I feel like he could evenly match some people in the top 3. So,
All right. And Paul?
Trying to think back to our very first game against Master L in the squad in the Obelisk of Obsidian match. And I recall, despite a lot of pressure being thrown at him that series, the way he played still felt intelligent. It felt like there was still this chance that like if he got a shutdown or two, like he would still be a force in those games. And I think that on his carry champs, he looks really good. I'm not sure if his weak side is super strong, but again, what I'm making is based on could this player pop off and solo carry their team, and Master L is definitely up there.
All right. That is fair. I'm actually excited to see how it like if he comes back, how he'll do next season, because I'm sure like with a better like supporting cast, he'll pop the fuck off. So, all right. At number 4, this is where I have Pushin' LP.
man.
Sorry, bro. I'm thinking about the culmination of like the entire season, and I was like thinking back to it, and I also remember Injustice eliminating you from the winners bracket. That too. When he subbed in ZWDK.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
anyways,
that was a bad game.
we forget about that. But anyways, I think like in terms of how many, because like I think in terms of like pop off and like skill level, you guys are very very close and probably equivalent. But in terms of how many stable games you guys have had, I think Injustice had more, and I'll just spoil it now. Injustice
agree.
is at 3, and so that's like my solid reasoning. I don't really think one of you guys is better than the other as of the current state, but he just had a more solid season, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. His lows were not near as low as mine. Yeah.
All right, and Faye, number 4, David is down here. Whew.
Oh. Sorry. But I thought he was a really good top laner. I really do think he's a really good top laner. I thought he was like really consistent throughout the whole season. And I think it's because I did listen in on like I think it was someone's stream, maybe like Red Ranger's stream, and I felt like he didn't like speak a lot and the like to give as a captain I felt like he should have like did more shot calling but and stuff. So that's why I have him a little bit lower than he probably is. But other than that, I thought he did really well, and he definitely played around his team and like tried to look for plays, always roamed around and like tried to get their carries. I think jungle and mid ahead.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to talk about this one. Injustice, you guys are on the same page once again. There's...
I'm starting to get worried he may just copy my homework.
I don't know.
think you
I don't
guys
know.
basically almost copied each other's homework.
I'll talk on this because
yeah.
So Injustice is obviously on my team, and I think some of this might just be recency bias. But kind of between him and Bush and LP was really, really close. I'll also spoil Bush and LP's next here on the list for me.
Yep.
The carry performances that you had, like there was, I think one, I can't remember the exact name of the series, but it was the Aatrox scheme you had, where it just looked so really dominant. I feel like not many people have been able to make the Aatrox into Ornn matchup work. It's supposed to be a good matchup for Aatrox, but it was disappointing to see like not many people like really be able to exploit a tank matchup into Aatrox, which is supposed to be like this extremely powerful carry champion. And so I was really impressed with that. But then I think between you two, it was like always just very, very close. And so I just because of like the last final performance, it just stuck out so much in my mind. I just ended up putting you one rank higher.
Yeah, it's also hard to get ahead of Injustice when you get level 2'd by Jarvan. So, no, but it's actually I was joking like for days before this happened about like I don't want to do power rings. I don't want to do power rings because like I don't want to like make anybody sad or anything. Like it like seeing Injustice at 4 like it hurts me. I really just wish the top 3 was like 4 people because me and him 1v1 all the time, and I know it's always close. And yeah, he's good. He's really good.
Yes, sir. With that, we move on to number 3, and most of us already spoiled it. I have Injustice here, and I don't need to talk about it because it was basically for the same reason, just having more stable games. But and you guys get to talk about Dan, except Dan. He doesn't get to talk about himself.
Aw.
No, that's okay. You get to talk about yourself, but you go last. These two go.
I've said
Okay.
my piece, so I'll let Fleas go.
All right, Faye goes.
Oh yay! Okay. Playing with Dan all season, it's been really like enlightening of how like top lane matchups go and how he thinks it like
Top laner stinks.
thinks through the game. Yes, I do. I mean, yes, I do.
All right, sorry. Continue.
But it was really I thought he played really solid throughout the whole season and everything, and he played for the team so much, and I love that. And I think I have him a little bit lower than Injustice because he fell asleep during our conversation. Team conversation.
Oh my!
That's a valid point. All right, I like this reasoning. All right, Dan, what do you have to say about that, huh?
I think I need to like talk to my doctor about like narcolepsy or something.
Holy shit, really?
Gotten pretty bad recently, so we had a we had a team meeting about draft strategy 2 days before we played finals, and I fell asleep in the meeting. So,
all right. But other than that, you want to say anything about yourself, like overall as the season, how you thought you played?
I feel like I definitely had lower lows than Injustice, and I feel like Injustice deserves to be a top 3 player, but I feel like I don't know. I feel like I showed that I like got a lot better compared to last season,
Hmm.
and I think I showed that I can play weak side or strong side. So if somebody wants to draft me next season, I'll do whatever you want. Just don't make me play Orin. So that's about it.
Perfect, perfect. All right. With that, we'll just show number 2 and 1 because there'll only be one people left, and I'll just say my piece on David versus Team Money because these two were very close in terms, or in my mind. But I, once again, in this case, I measure, or this is where the case where I measured by carry potential, and although I think David is very intelligent in the manner of his macro and playing a lot for his team to try to get his other teammates ahead rather than himself, give or take like 1 or 2 like Mordekaiser games. Uh, but other than that, I think that when it comes to who can carry the game harder, at the end of the day, I would take Tim in my mind, and it's just been proven like throughout like many games that he can literally 1v9 a game, especially on set. So, and he clutches when it matters in game 5. So,
Mhm.
but I will say that's nothing to say. David, I think the way he plays the game, it can be very beneficial. Like, I if I were to say like if David was on Rob's team, I would Rob's team probably would not like drop an entire game just because of the way he plays. So yeah, got nothing else to say. I think Faye, you already talked a little bit about Injustice. Do you have anything to say about Team Money?
I
Who,
thought
me?
he was.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
No, yeah, I agree with what you said. I think he did amazing in all of his games, except even when he got camped, like even when he got hard camped and everything, he like went even and he was relevant in those games. Um, but yeah.
All right. Well, now that I've heard of the team meeting thing, I'm convinced that Dan copied off of Paul here. So
I did it in my sleep, man. That's why I don't remember.
Exactly. All right, but do you have anything to say? You have Tim and David at number 1 and 2, and so does Paul. Dan.
Tim is the only person who gave me an absolute toddler spanking this season. Here's I could be wrong. This is me and my like Silver 4 tiny little top laner brain. Is I think DV for VP is like out of all the top laners has the best brain in like every category except like straight up like pre 15-minute like laning. I think Tim is the best at that. But like literally everything else, like playing for the other team, knowing what waves to side lane on and like what not to, and like knowing how to bait his jungler or knowing how to bait me for his jungler. Lord knows he did that a lot of times. It was annoying. I think he's like the best at all those, like clearly out of any top laner. But I think Tim still takes the cake in like 1v1 domination.
All right, and then Paul, you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah. I played with David a lot in the past. He's not a historically he doesn't like play a lot of competitive. He didn't like
Yeah.
you know like you and I were like we were in school. We did that. David just kind of played mostly for fun. He's a really good solo queue player, but he also historically plays weak side. We saw him try and convert to carry mid-season. The Pantheon, I'm not sure if it was the right champion for it. I've seen his Fiora. I know his Fiora is good. I wanted to see more of that. But Diminy like has. I remember the first or looking to draft against Crocs with Glocks. I pull up like the Battlefy and I look through, and Diminy literally had played a different champion every single game leading up to ours. And I was like, okay, so probably just get rid of Kale and we'll go from there. Like it was just like what am I supposed to do? Because he has wins on all these different champions. And so just like in terms of the ability to shake up the draft, Timothy was really good. And then also obviously there was that set performance which will forever haunt me. As I was thinking like, oh my god, this is an easy Lilia carry game. Look at all these melees, and then he just popped off so insanely hard. So props to Timony. A lot of that's gonna stick out of my mind, but and David might be overall a better player, but Timony has made an impact this season.
That's okay. If it makes you feel better, that's what I also thought Game 2 versus Froggy Fighters. Alright. With that, the top lane rankings are over, and we will be moving on to the jungle. Big note, this could be a very, very controversial take by the community. I think there is something wrong with their brains, but it's okay. Let's move on. Alright. You guys are crazy, but it's not like too far out there, but also, they voted exactly to a tie for Giuseppe Hack and Baratel. Which and I think my ranking is too high in this, by the way. But anyways, I will say though, if I actually tried taking a median, and Baratel actually had the highest median, and I had the lowest median. So it means that I got the highest and lowest like votes, but I think Baratel had like the most average votes around like 4 to 6 around there. So anyways, we're gonna move on. Show number 10 here, and this is where I have Dark Juice. Everyone has Dark Juice except for Faye.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I was not in on the meeting.
Wasn't Dark Juice the guy who You told me he subbed in for Joe, right?
No.
Oh.
Uh-oh. No, that's Shanez. That's not Dark Juice.
You told me.
No,
Okay.
I didn't tell you.
Yeah, you did.
No.
We're witnessing gaslighting live on call.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
No.
not a good
It's fine,
start
it's
for
fine,
some
it's
of
fine.
esports.
That's okay. If anything, your rankings move up one. No worries.
Yeah, welcome to how 70% of Froggy Fighter comms sound.
Alright, but anyways, I think... Okay, Dark Juice is in the same situation where, it's like Bricks, right? Where Dark Juice... Isn't he also bronze, by the way? Dark Juice. I'm pretty sure he's also bronze. But honestly, like, as a jungler, it makes the game a lot harder, and therefore, if he's not able to control, like lane states or hover his laners, or know how to do it properly, I guess. Maybe this season will be different, because you can't counter jungle anymore, but anyways, continuing on, I don't really think like I can feasibly put him any higher than this, and I think it's because the middle pack of jungle was actually like very close. Yeah. So anyways, I'm just gonna show 9 so that oh, never mind. It's different. All right, Faye. Besides Dark Juice, why do you have a Germ BM like at the bottom? Would you say?
I feel bad because I think he was on Obsidian of Obliques. Yeah. And I felt like a lot of the junglers just out-jungled him a lot, and maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like he didn't have much impact. But
all right.
You guys clearly have him higher, so.
Yes. You guys have anything to say about you have Germ and Dark Juice down here, Dan?
Yeah, I think I agreed with what you said about Dark Juice, and I think Germ BM had some really nice plays. But like, maybe this is just me as a top laner, but if there's like any role I would want consistency, it would be my jungler. I don't know. I didn't watch like too many of the games, but I think it could be a toss up at him at 8 or 9, but I think he should be at 8 or 9.
All right. And then Paul, you have Dark Juice and Dowsing.
Yeah, I think 8 and 9 are really close for me. A particular game on Hecarim sticks out for me for Dowsing.
Yeah.
Right, I just remember, like, I think it was right after Hecarim got the insane buffs, and just watching him not really know what to do on the champion, it felt like he was still trying to play it like a facilitator jungler, just like trying to spam gank on Hecarim.
Yeah.
And whenever anyone looks lost on a champion that they play a lot of, it doesn't look good to me. Maybe he's being micromanaged by the team. Maybe they're demanding ganks, but I don't have access to that information. So at a face value level, it did not look good, and so that just stuck out to me as a key performance.
And do you have anything else to say about dowsing, Faye?
No. I felt like he just didn't perform very well, so I put him lower.
That is fair. All right, I'll talk. Okay, so kind of cello for me. Kind of cello is a very methodical player, but I think the problem is he doesn't adjust his jungling to who he's playing with or who he's into very well, I would say. And for that reason, I think it makes him the most unflexible jungler in this league, probably, besides his wild, wacky Nautilus jungle Taric picks, which I know Paul's got a soft spot for Nautilus in there, but I will say it probably just wasn't the best. But for the way that they played, it kind of worked out for them. But I don't really like with the junglers that I'm looking at. I'm gonna say this like I'm measuring a level of how many psychopaths are in the jungle. Okay, and I'm looking. I see Baratel. I see Giuseppe Hack. I'm a psychopath too. Yep. Eldaho, Jix, and then Paul is probably not a psychopath, but can sometimes be a psychopath. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, I just don't think he can like match up to anyone like above him really, and then the matter of fact. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about him. We'll move on. Number 8. While we're at it, why don't you guys say something about kind of jealous since you guys have him at 8.
So, kind of cello playing against him. Like I knew the Tar jungle was on the table. I knew the Blitzcrank jungle was on the table. But there's reasons that these junglers aren't good, including the Nautilus, which I mean I try and break it out every single time I see the champion in patch notes. It just can't work. At least last season. We'll see this season. I haven't tested it yet. But it felt like kind of cello crippled themselves with their own champ pool. I think that they played fairly intelligently in the game, but it just never felt like it feels like they were limiting themselves so much by what they picked, and that they could have done a lot better if they had just adjusted their champion pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you take away the picks, I think he had like really interesting ways of pathing and successfully making plays some of the time. And I know he's a really smart guy. He was our sub season 2 when I played with Asteria, and he was the captain. He was our sub, and he was like basically like coaching us. I think he's really smart. So.
Okay. All right. And I think I have dowsing down here for the same reasons as you guys do. Where it felt like he wasn't used to like the champions that he played and what their job is supposed to be now. For an example, like I saw him play a few games of Nocturne where he was super ahead, but he ended up like buying like other items like what's and Anthemas, right? Anthemas chains. I remember, yeah, Anthemas. I remember him buying that, and I was just thinking like, wow, I guess he didn't really just want to murder like whoever he ults because he was actually that far ahead. I think he was like 2,000 gold ahead or something like that, and then they ended up losing the game because like they couldn't kill the backline anymore.
Yeah.
But on top of that, with Hecarim, I just don't think it was really his season, and I actually think he hasn't. Maybe he hasn't played as much this season. I remember last season, or like earlier in the year when we were doing like season 3, he was playing a lot because I met him in solo queue a few times on Smurfs. So, but yeah. Other than that, I think this is the fairest spot I can give him. So. All right, and then Faye doesn't remember Dark Juice, so we're gonna move on.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, and number 7, I have Germ. I think Germ was also okay. I'll be real. I think the first 2 series of the season, I don't think Germ was very good. But after like week 3, he started to pick it up. Like he started playing more like engage heavy champions like Zac, and he actually made some very like healthy and nice plays in the early to mid game, but I think his problem still lies where he has trouble like knowing exactly what he needs to do after like about 15 minutes or when laning phases are over, like where he needs to look or where he needs to clear vision so that he has a look on the champions that he's playing. But yeah, other than that, I still think like in general, like no, even if their team was like pretty bad, he still like played better than everyone else below him. So, but yeah, Cello, Faye.
I actually liked the champions he played in the jungle, to be honest. On, and I felt like he was really effective on them. I remember going against his Taric jungle, and it was just impossible to kill anyone on his team. And I thought he was really effective in most of his games, to be honest.
His
I don't
champions
think
are
we should.
annoying. You're right.
Yeah, I don't think we should be like. I don't know, like if that's his champ pool, right? So like pushing him onto like a hard engage or something that would be better for his team might not be as good as what he's comfortable on.
It's fair. All right. Do you have anything else to add on for Dowsing, Dan?
Yeah, Dowsing played last season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be some bias for me towards last season. I know he was pretty good last season. And I definitely watched more of his games than I did Germ, so there might be some bias there. I think he played all right, but I think he could play better. I don't know. I'm not gonna say too much about like pathing or anything because I have a top laner brain. Yeah.
That's fair. All right, and then the actual jungler. What do you think about Germ?
Germ kind of struck me as a jungler that like knew what to do off the first clear really well, but then as soon as they backed, it was like very confusing for them. Because I felt like they had decent like first ganks, and then it would be like, okay, now what do you do with like the lead you just created? And then they just go to like the opposite side of the map or just not play for the lane that they initially played for. Um, so I think they just need some more work in the jungle. They need more reps, honestly, in solo queue on junglers, and
Fair.
really trying to understand like what they need to be doing as the game progresses.
All right. With that, I'm going to show number 6 here, and this is where I have myself and 50 cal. And let's talk about this for a sec. So I think Gunnar is Gunnar is a very intelligent jungler, but the truth of the matter is that we have different play styles, like Gunnar and I, and he plays more to like spam gank and like try to get himself ahead to where he can like start pounding people and carry. But on that note, I think for me, my objective is to make sure that my win conditions can play the game, and not saying that I'm like not gonna like carry in a different manner, but I will carry in the manner of where I'm using my champions to actually CC them rather than I'm just going to be gigafed and like run them over. That being said, I don't think I've put enough games of jungle to actually put myself any higher either. I just don't fully understand the full mechanic of jungle yet. Besides, I know where to fucking gank, and I know who should carry the game, and that's it. And then I just play for them, and that's really all it is. I will say though, I think my strength is I don't know what jungler I'm gonna play when I go into the series, and I also am very flexible during the series on like how to play around the enemy jungler just by watching them, because sometimes like I'll go in and I just play terribly like one game because like I have no idea what the other person is gonna do. So yeah. At number 6, Faye's got Eldaho.
Controversial.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, I probably should have him higher. I think it's just because I think he's a very intelligent jungler and he knows what he needs to do for his team. And and where to be at and everything, and what objectives to take at that time. But I felt like it was just really one style to the last two series, I think, or like the last series where he actually like played Kindred and E. But throughout the whole series, it was just like three champions, and it's just run at you, run at you, run at you, and tanking everything in the team. But like I guess like as a jungler, I should have ranked him higher. But
Damn.
yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
Idaho.
All right. And then Push and LP's also got 50 cal and I at 6. Let's hear it. No hard feelings.
You sure about that?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
No.
So I think 50 cal on Warwick is an absolute demon, and but obviously he's never going to get it, and so I think that automatically puts him down a bit lower. And then as far as Woojin, not like you yourself not knowing what jungler you're going to pick going into the series, I feel like we knew that as well, and that made, not that you weren't a threat, but that just like made you less of a threat. And
Yeah.
you being on a team and not having to like ban anything is kind of crazy, but that's like how it was. And you're really smart. Obviously, you're a very smart guy, and you had a really nice Hecarim game.
You guys banned my Nocturne all 3 games. I hate you.
Yeah, I like looking at my map. So I like being. I'm already gray screened a lot, so I like having my screen when it's not gray. So
Maximum color time.
True. All right. And then Paul, Baratal number 6.
So I got to cast the finals, but I also watched a lot of the games leading up to it. Baratel can do the level 2 assassination, but his recovery from it usually is not good. So like the Shaco game or something, like he'll pop out, hit the level 2 gank, but then kind of just not be a threat until like level 6 after that. I feel like he made consistent pathing mistakes, and against someone like John Gix or myself, he'd always be down levels. Because, or maybe even you, Wujin, because like no matter what, you probably were on a camp or like at least 1 or 2 camps ahead of him at like most stages of the game.
Oh yeah. All right. That is actually part of what I was gonna say too, which is why I have Baratal number 5 too, and it was for the exact same reason, to where I think like while his ganks are super effective, he puts himself behind when he shouldn't need to be behind at the same time, right? And it just allows like people like that he plays, like enemy junglers, to just stay in the game. And honestly, like the most catastrophic thing that happens is when those level 2 ganks don't work, and then he's even further behind because he just misses out on XP, and sometimes he even loses one entire quadrant of his jungle. So but other than that, I think considering like where Baratal started, where he went from support to mid, or mid to support, and then to no. Maybe it was the other way around. I don't remember at this point.
it was support, and then
Mhm.
AD for like a single game or series. And
Oh,
then
that's
mid
right.
and
Yeah.
jungle.
Yep.
Mhm.
He played 4 roles.
But considering how little time he had to like play jungle, no, he already played jungle like in solo queue previously. But I still think like compared to like the rest of like the crew, he actually played very well and did exactly what he needed to win every single game. So yeah. And then at number 5 we have Giuseppe Hack for both Faye and Dan. We'll start with Faye.
I actually really liked Giuseppe's champ pool. I felt like a lot of the junglers played tankish champions, and he played Diana and Echo and stuff, and I thought he had a great impact on his team, trying to get his team ahead a lot. I feel like roughly like 2 through 7 were kind of interchangeable, but that's just where I have Joe.
Okay. Anything to add on to that, Dan?
Let's not get it twisted, Faye. Diana is definitely a tank jungler. Maybe you haven't.
Is she?
Maybe you have not been ganked by it enough times, or maybe you have not been baited into it as many times as I have. But no. I remember at the beginning of the season, I was like, "Oh, this guy is just an Echo player, whatever." But by the end of the season, it's like, "Holy shit, this guy plays Echo. He plays Diana. He plays Kindred. He like, plays all these things that are threats." And I think, I don't know. I think he got like better every week. And if he wasn't a Diana player, he'd probably be at 4. So. No, I'm just kidding. But he's really good, and he got a lot better. So.
All right, that's fair. And then Paul, I think you already talked about it a little bit, but you care to elaborate anymore?
Yeah. So it was really hard to rank you guys because it was 2-1. I never got to play against 50 Cal. I did watch a few of the games that he played in. But I think this ranking is more about the series that we played. It feels like you have the opposite problem of Germ VM, where you don't know what you're doing levels 1 through 4, but then after that, you know exactly what to do.
Exactly.
Which is maybe just the destiny of a Phil player. But that's why I ended up putting you here.
It's for me, clear camps and then hope to God that I can buy items, and then after that I can do something.
It makes Nocturne a perfect champion for you. I didn't think about it.
Exactly. Rush 6, press R, make everyone's life hell. And Vi's kind of like similar in the same way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, with that we'll move on. Number 4. This is where I have Joe. I think Joe's actually a great jungler. And honestly, I was like, don't mean this in a bad way, but I was kind of disappointed in the series that we played versus the devs. But it was really, I remember he was a little bit off his game, really. And honestly, I think like if he played a little bit better in games 4 and 5, and I know he was probably like sleep deprived or something like that, it probably would have been much harder for us to win, or even maybe we don't even win, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were physically dying. But other than that, I would say the regular season performance of Joe has been very stable throughout just about every single game and series, to where he has like a set like method on what he wants to do, but at the same time he can have psychopathic moments where he'll just be like, all right, I cleared this, I'm gonna check their blue buff even though I know they started on that side, and see if he's done with it yet. But other than that, yeah, like Dan said, everyone was talking about how he was just like just an Echo player at the very start of the season, but at the very end of the day, like people had to start banning either his Sejuani or banning his Trundle or banning J4, all different like champs of that nature. And for that's like a big reason why he's number 4, because he actually has like a very high influence on the early to mid game parts of jungle. So
and the ban phase.
Ban phase as well, yeah. All right, and then Faye.
I thought 50 Cal was a good jungler. I think in the beginning it was just a little bit rough because he was focusing so much on top side, which it is their win condition, Tim. But they kind of just left the rest of the map left to die. But and like near the end, I felt like he played a lot better, and then you showed up, woohoo! And I thought you were a really good jungler, and you knew what you needed to do, and your pathing. So I have you guys up there.
Fair. All right. And then, honestly, I'm surprised by this one. Dan's got Onyx at number 4.
The more I think about it, Onyx probably should be top 3, and maybe this is me being a top laner and like I like see Onyx once per match, but I don't know why in my head it was 4, because like going through my thoughts now, it's like, okay, he can play Taric, he can play supportive things for Rob, he can play aggressive things, he can play Viego, But I don't know. It always just seems like, and in my head, maybe it's like all he has to do is play for bot side, and he's really fucking good at doing that. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know.
All right. And then Paul also has Show at number 4 as the actual jungler in our power ranking. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
So in our series against the devs, I think I completely outpathed him in the first 2 games. There was the Trundle game 1, then I'm blanking what I played game. I think it was Lilia game 2.
Yeah, it was.
But both early games, I think we had like 5k gold leads, super quick. He felt like a little lost in terms of like what to do against me. Although, in talking to the devs after, they said they knew my location the entire game, which then just confused me even more, because if they knew my location, then why wasn't he responding to it in a way that his team could do something? So granted, he got me in game 3 with early pathing. Jay Fortin said Johnny, I think, is a really hard matchup, and he played it really well. And then like throughout the rest of the season, I think he just made consistent improvements, like you guys said. It was like, okay, it's not just the Echo. There's more champions. The Kindred, I think, is a champion that I admire in jungler who can play. Because I may be stuck at ADCs, and I'm so used to an engage brain. But his ability to put up carry performances made their entire top side just this insane threat. So I ranked it pretty high.
All right. With that, we're going to move on to number 3. We're getting towards the end of this in jungle. All right, so this is where I have Eldaho. And honestly, I would have him higher, but it was also because they went out in a disappointing way, honestly. I was not expecting them to get knocked out that fast. And that's just it, honestly. I thought they would... I honestly thought he should have hard carried, like, his team. And yes, I know jungle is hard to play without, like, pushing lanes, but the problem is, like, if you're quote-unquote, like, one of the better players on your team, and you have, you know, one of the best mid lanes on your team as well, there should be a world where you guys can thrive and try to find ways to create leads for the rest of your team as well. So that's just my thoughts on it. And it's a big part of why I have Jix at number 2 as well, but I'll explain that when I get to it. And Faye, is this a team bias, or is it like no, I'm kidding. But you have Beartail at number 3.
No, it's not a team bias. I actually really... Okay, Beartail literally played three other roles other than jungle. I just felt like he played mid really well. He played support really well. He played ADC really well, and he transferred that into jungle too. And for the time, like going from the mindset from all those roles, like even though he's already a jungle main, going from that other mindsets it's kind of hard. So have to give it to him that he
You don't
did
know
really
OG.
well.
You don't know OG Eldaho though.
Huh?
He used to be a jungler. He won season 1 with being a jungler. So.
This is season 4, I think.
Yeah. To be fair, he was also gold and only playing Udyr Hecarim back then. But anyways, continuing on. Yeah. You guys also have Eldaho, by the way.
Yeah, Eldaho is a stat check enjoyer, and in the top lane we call those Ornn players. So there's that. But no, Eldaho is a really intelligent player. Is probably the best at like just punishing really dumb mistakes by the other team. He consistently plays for like multiple roles at the same time. And I think like in any world, in any parallel universe, he's still top 3.
All right. Anything to add on to that, Paul?
Yeah, Eldaho's champ pool is feast or famine in the jungle. either he'll have the carry performance, get the stats he needs, and just run people down, or he'll look useless, steal valuable resources from the keys and win conditions on his team, and then just do nothing with them. Kind of a fault of his champions. I know he pulled out like the Jarvan like once or twice, but I think his primary playstyle being this, it's hard to make that style work in La Liga. I don't think it's a style that I never try and make work. Like I hate playing things like Graves.
Yeah.
Graves, Udyr. Obviously, I whipped at the Hecarim a few times, but I think that it's hard to steal the resources of the jungler and make it carry performance happen. So
Yes.
the fact he's able to do it was really cool.
I would say it's like, to be honest, like I feel like with the overall play level and style of La Liga, like Paul said, it is very hard to play carry junglers, honestly, and most of the time it works better to just like play CC or something that can help your team like stall out a team fight a little bit, and then try to like have them peel back so that they can like create damage moments for themselves. So yeah. That being said, moving on, I'll show top 2, and this is where I have Sulpan Jungle King at number 1, and there's nothing else I need to say about that. I think Paul is a great jungler and literally put just about everyone in the dirt, besides like maybe 1 or 2 games, but other than that, yeah, we have Riley, and honestly, I was not expecting to have Jix at number 2 at the end of this season. And it's not even about like the team that he's on. It's that when he's playing champs that like he knows how to play, like Zach or Viego, he somehow just gets very good looks. And yes, I know they are champions that have like a lot of like gank assists and like tools to like be shrouded or like gank from like 10 years away. It doesn't matter. The fact that he's still able to get those looks every single time, it feels really bad if you're on the enemy team, honestly. And once he's so far ahead, it doesn't matter what he does. Like he can basically just like slap you with his wallet. So Faye, do you have anything to add on to that?
No, I felt like he knew where he needed to be, and like all of his games, whether bot side, camp top side and stuff, he pathed really well, and he knows his champs and did really well on them.
You're gonna hype Sulpan up a little bit too?
Oh, right.
Hey, come on, feed the ego. It's time.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
I've been waiting for this power rankings this entire time. I was like, I better still be number 1.
No, yeah, I have like mad respect for Sulpan, especially after I think Alturas streamed several of their games, and you just hear Sulpan shot calling everything, like every little thing, like, oh, I went in, oh, get back, come back in, and then stuff like that. It's just amazing you have somebody that like, just calling everything for you, and he just knows what to do and like what to do in team finds, where to be, and yeah, overall really great.
Sulpan still got it. All right.
Um,
Dan, you got Baratel at number 2 and Sulpan at number 1.
So realistically, GYX and Baratel should probably be swapped, but Baratel's my fucking guy.
Okay.
If I wasn't on his team, I think I don't know. I'd still want to put him in my top 3 if he wasn't on my team. Yeah, like sometimes he doesn't farm his own jungle, but like I don't know, the guy does everything else. There are plenty of fights this season where he wants to fight, and I'm like, no, that looks terrible, and he just like Jarvan EQ ours, and we win the fight, and somehow he knew that. And I think, I don't know, I think as soon as he started playing jungle, I think we just started playing the game a little bit differently, and I think he was the biggest part of that. And I don't think he'll ever get enough credit for the things he was able to do this season, given the amount of time he had playing certain roles. And as far as Sulpan, there's no better jungler this season, I think, just in general, but also certain things, like if I pick Shen and I'm against like Injustice or something, and his knowledge of like how the matchups go in top lane, I'm sure Injustice was talking to him, but like his knowledge of like when to gank certain matchups was really annoying. And he made my life very difficult. So
I'm never been happier to hear that.
All right. Now I gotta hear Paul hype himself up, and then also talk about Riley. That's the secondary one.
So I'll talk about Riley first. So I actually didn't know who this was coming into the season. I feel like I've never seen Onyx's name in any tournaments we've ever played in. But I feel like every team this season had realistically two people who were like looked to be the carries. And on ZWD it was Gix and Goblin.
Yep.
And his champ pool puts up an insane amount of pressure. So like the champions he picks are champions that force you to adapt your entire playstyle around. It's really, really frustrating to try and teach your team to flip switches in their heads in terms of how they have to play the game. And those champions that he picks are like niche champions. Like Fiddlesticks is a champion you have to just run in practice tool for hours and hours and hours just to make sure you get the clear right. Team fighting is a little easier, but he like found these crazy angles all the time. He was willing to like just walk away from the Baron, hide in a bush, and then just completely ambush our team. It was insane. Super frustrating to play against. And then on top of that, his pathing was really good in the games I played against him, both in scrims and the series we've got to play against EWD. I'm not sure if it's just because pathing is just super easy for him because it's obviously X-ray is weak side, mid is weak side, just path for bot.
Yeah.
But I was also attempting to do the same, and I felt like he was in the right places at times that I didn't expect him to be in. And so he like, caught me off guard multiple times.
Gotcha. All right.
Do I have to do myself? I don't want to do this.
No, you don't have to do yourself. You
Okay, sick. Jungle Gap, I'm better than all of you. Fuck.
I like that. Okay.
Whoa.
All right, with that,
truth
jungle
comes out.
rankings have finished. I think that this is probably like the most like oh, actually, never mind. We still have mid lane. All right, next one's gonna be kind of weird too. All right, mid lane. Man, oh man. There are some characters in this one, and that might have affected some of the power rankings, if I'm gonna be honest, by the community, of course. So let's show the community rankings. Yeah. So I know. Just by looking at this, honestly, it's like kind of hard to tell like where people should be, but I guess this is how the community sees it. It was overwhelmingly there's like a solid top 3, but other than that, I would say the rest are like decently close. But yeah, I'm gonna start off. Let's show number 10, and we all have Bucko Diff, and my God, I knew Party Toad for a long time, and they tried to do the same thing that he did on Joe's Hose in season 1, and it didn't work. And honestly, I kind of saw that coming. Not gonna lie, and it's mainly because one that his champion pool is not very strong right now and not very favorable to the game. So. Yeah, and other than that, like he literally just got outlaid just about every game except maybe like 1 or 2. So, you guys have anything else to add on to that?
Not a whole lot. I just, in truth, Bucko Diff, the reason that they're ranked 10th with me is because I just don't remember much from them. I don't like have any big memories of like, oh, this was a crazy play that they made. I couldn't think of anything. So it's really hard to like for me to place them, so I kind of just ended up putting them 10th.
I agree.
Uh-oh, did Woojin's mic die?
No,
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. that's why I'm asking too. All right, but anyways, Dan.
I mean, yeah, everything Paul said, pretty much.
Oh, they want me to eat my mic. Oh, maybe it's because it's turned down a little bit. All right, hold on. Let me eat my mic for you guys. All right, but yeah. Anyways, you have anything to add on to that, Faye, or kind of just like the same thing?
No, it's the same thing.
All right. With that, we'll move on. 3 of us have Donnie at number 9, and honestly, I think... see, Donnie's a tough one because I actually really like his playstyle as a player, but I think the problem is that he doesn't exploit enough advantages or leads to where he can try to, like, put his team back into the game. It feels like in a lot of times where Donnie is like playing well, maybe like I think he played well, like very well, like 3 or 4 games. He didn't actually like snowball the rest of his lead to his team, and whenever they got his shutdown, the other team ended up just winning. So yeah, Donnie was in fact a victim of his environment. So yeah, you have anything else to add to that, Faye?
No, it's the same thing. I think I remember seeing like a Z game and he had a huge lead and he just didn't really do much with it. And that carried over to several other games too.
All right, and then Paul.
Yeah, talking about the 2 carry system of pretty much every single team had, I think Donnie was expected to be the secondary carry of this team.
Yeah.
But whenever Assyria failed, it felt like Donnie was also failing. And so there was never that instance of Donnie being able to make the game work despite the failings of the other carry.
It's fair. All right, and then pushing. Got Space Smurf.
Yeah, I went back and looked at where everybody was drafted. I went back and looked at the draft again, and I think he was the second mid laner taken behind setup.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Looking at nines, like I don't think he even played like terrible or anything, but I just don't think I remember him doing anything crazy.
I feel like it was, to be honest, it felt like he was low-key a victim of his team too. But,
yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean that team was a mess anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. At number 8, this is where I have Space Smurf, and honestly, I feel for the guy because like, hey, wait, actually, you know what? He got his win. This season, he got his very first La Liga win, if I remember correctly. So, hey, that's one step up. But honestly, I think like in lane, Space Smurf plays well, but then once like laning phase ends for everyone else, he either gets ganked and dies on repeat, or once lane ends, he has no idea what else like he should do, and so his farm ends up stagnating, and he doesn't actually like push any of the leads he has. So, but other than that, yeah, especially for being a mid laner, it's hard if a lot of your team isn't doing well either, because you're kind of in the middle and both sides of the map affect you. So like if bot loses super hard or mid lane or top lane loses super hard, their laners probably either come to your lane or are screwing around like killing your jungler on repeat, and then you look really weak in that manner. So but yeah, you have anything else to add, Faye?
No, yeah, I agreed. I feel bad because I don't remember too much of Space Smurf during his series, but I felt like he performed well, but like there wasn't much of a impact on the game that he made.
Fair. All right, and then Dan, we talked a little bit about Donnie. Do you have anything else you want to say about it?
Yeah. I don't know. Donnie's a cool guy. I like Donnie. I wish he would come back top. I don't think he belongs mid.
All right.
But I just want to play against him on his Camille again. But I
top lane Donnie was fun.
Yeah, I think it could have gone a lot better for Donnie. I still think he deserves higher than 9, but that's about it.
Fair. And then Paul with Logic at number 8. And honestly, this is a ranking I can also understand, to be fair.
Yeah. All my rankings will be based around how many times my hot daddy was either crying negatively or crying positively. And against Logic, there was no negative crying. It was very like, oh wow, we're winning this lane. Oh my god, we're killing him. Oh my god, I killed him twice.
You know what? That low-key explains the rest of your list. But anyways, continue.
So, I feel like, I don't know, like, I feel like Logic has potential as a player. I think he's mentioned himself he's very much like a solo queue player. He doesn't really feel like he has the capacity to shot call and lead the team from mid. He thinks he could do it better from like other positions.
Yeah.
yeah, I thought other mid laners were better.
And with that, that's also my number 7 pick, and I'll just like continue on with that. I think also a big part of it is that he did not really have a good supporting cast, unlike last season when he was playing on WSU, to where other people can either carry him or he doesn't like need to feel all the pressure on himself to carry. And I think that's a big reason why his performance was so bad, is because he was trying to make plays to the point to where like they obviously weren't good plays, but he felt like he needed to make them because he felt like he's, like the solo carry on that team. And like you were talking about the 2 carry system, it was him and Mastel. And if Mastel goes even or doesn't do well, it's all up to logic. And in that manner, I think that influences him to make a lot of bad decisions when he knows in general that they were not good decisions. So, yeah. And so we have a big take coming up. My Hot Daddy at number 7 by Faye.
I feel like no, don't shake your head. I feel like 3 through 7 are pretty like interchangeable, but okay, so like a spoiler, like with I put Nylik at 6 because I felt like they both played really, I don't want to say supportively, because that's how everyone's been describing their gameplay and everything. But that's just how like he
They're
did
doing
what
their
he
role
needed for his
well.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
I felt like he didn't have like a huge impact other than like with he played Vex, and I thought he did really great on Vex. There's some amazing Vex plays that he did in the series, but yeah, I don't. That's about
All
it.
right. And number 7, Push and LP's got Flash of Night.
Yeah, I'd like to preface this by saying there's definitely some recency bias, and I would like to switch him and Logic. There's definitely some recency bias. I think he had, although in lane, part of the reason I want to switch them is in lane he actually gave, like, just hearing Sparks comms of like, yeah, I can't play the game right now. Like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And him actually like exploiting like range versus melee and certain things. He needs to be higher. I think it was just recency bias because he missed a lot of shuffles that he should have. But I think that's it. I think he's so much better than 7.
All right, fair.
I might have. Ethan says I might have fallen asleep on this one, and I think I agree.
All right. Number 7, Paul's got Nylik.
So I think Nylik, in the final series, still played the usual champs in their pool very well, but I think the assassin games were not a good look, and so it makes me just think that they might just be kind of fisted into the style of the only thing they can play is the Twisted Fate, the Ziggs, Galio, these style of champs.
Yep.
Which is risky, and I wanted to see someone try and exploit this, but I never ended up seeing it throughout the season. Was playing something like Kassadin into him. I don't think Nylik would have a good answer, and wouldn't have what it takes to be able to shut down a pick like that. And so I think that like there was exploitable things through mid against CWD, but through my own mid-laners champ pool, it just wasn't something that we could really exploit.
Okay. That's fair, honestly. That's also like part of my points whenever I get to Paul, but I do have him a little bit higher. But sorry, at the end of the day, I got my Hot Daddy at number 6, and I agree with the community on this one. Okay, all right, listen. I think so the reason for my Hot Daddy at number 6 is clutch or kick, okay? And I remember one specific instance where my Hot Daddy was like, I think he was either 6-0 or 8-0 in Game 5 in our series. And I just remember we're having this huge-ass team fight. We're all stacked up in 5, and I just see Vexar just fly past me, fucking right into the bleachers. But so, in this case, I took kick. And I was thinking, like, dude, if he hit that, like, If he didn't just randomly like throw it from like 10 years away and he just waited a little bit, he probably would have wiped us that fight, or at least like killed like our entire backline, because he was super fed and he was doing a lot of fucking damage that game. But I will say, I agree in the manner that I think My Hot Daddy, he gets fed, but it's not necessarily because of him. I think he is a more of a supportive player in a manner that, like, yeah, he can make good plays, but at the end of the day, he truly relies on laners or jungle diff in order to get him into the game. Besides maybe like 1 or 2 games where he's solo killing Logic, or he's solo killing who was it, Adiodi one time. That's right. But yeah, that's why I have My Hot Daddy at number 6, and we see both Faye and Dan having Paul at Nilek at number 6. So Faye?
Yeah, like I said, I felt like he was just really he played the supportive mid laner, and when he did play champions that were more aggressive in lane, I felt like he didn't do that as well as he did on supportive champions. But I thought he did overall well in the mid lane. He kept well with Sparks and did what he needed to for his team.
All right. Anything else to add on to that, Dan?
Yeah. He made himself like not accessible to the enemy team. I think he knew like he would try and be. Other teams would try and make him like the weak point of ZWD, or like one of them, and I think he was just really good at denying that. I think he played his role almost perfectly, and I like bantering both Paul, but it's really hard because he consistently performs at either like a decent or good level.
Okay. Let's not talk about his Zillion, though. We forget about those games. But anyways, number 6, you have Space Smurf, Sulpan.
Yeah, so Space Smurf feels like a player similar to Asteria or DB for VP, where they play the first 10 minutes of lane really well, but then they need a brain. They need someone to be telling them what to do after that. And I think that like he can generate a lead, but then doesn't know how to exploit it very well.
Yep.
And so I think it's one of those players that I'm watching next season, kind of like Master L. And I'm excited to see what they can do on maybe a different environment, different team, just different people, different voices in their head telling them what to do.
That's fair. And I think like you're right. If he does get on a different team, I hope he performs better.
I haven't heard about this other season where they didn't get a single win in La Liga.
No. It wasn't just another season. It was like 2 seasons where he didn't get a single win. It was very unfortunate, is what I would say. But anyways, moving on. At number 5, this is where I have Nilek, and let's talk about Paul a little bit. So Paul can have some very insane lows, but it's not to the point where like he's running it down. It's more like his champion just kind of feels useless, and he's only useful by pressing R on Zillion. And you know, at the end of the day, I would consider that like a draft advantage more than like the player advantage, right? The big reason why I have Paul ranked up higher is because sometimes he will, like, a lot of times he'll use his TP to actually either save his bot lane or make insane plays by TPing bot lane and then like TF ulting into a fight and actually just winning the fight for them. And I think that kind of map awareness is something that actually a lot of mid laners are kind of lacking, below him at least. And in that manner, that's why I have him this high. I wouldn't say that he gains individual leads, just like through him playing through his own lane and just sitting there. If anything, he creates a lot of leads for his other laners, and that would even include like sometimes for X-Ray too, where he would walk top lane and assist there. So, yeah. And at number 5, Faye has Logic here.
I'm actually really sad we didn't see more of Logic in and that he didn't go into playoffs. I feel like he's a really good mid laner, but he did play ADC most of the round robins, and when we did see him as mid, I felt like he was really good at controlling waves and matchups, and he knows his matchups. But like Solpan says, I feel like he is more of a solo queue player. So I have him at fit.
All right. And then number 5, Addy OD in lane.
Yeah, I think if there's one team I didn't watch, it was Obelisk of Obsidian. I think that's starting to show. So
Fell
Addy should
asleep,
probably be
remember? Yeah.
yeah. Addy should probably be a 4 for me. I think. Yeah, I don't know. When we played and when I watched, it felt like if you target bans mid for their team, it always just felt like Giuseppe and DV were like bigger threats. But that was if he didn't have a collie. That's for sure. His collie is very scary. And I know he has a ton of knowledge on like laning and like wave states and stuff. So
All right. And then Solpan, Flash of Night. This is closer to where I think he should be.
Yeah. When I came into the season, I heard a lot, or like I think there was a lot of lore about Flash of Night switching over to different roles, coming from ADC, and so I wouldn't think much was gonna happen in mid. I was surprised actually to see Flash of Night um, never seeming, at least in the games I watched, fall behind on these really big scaling picks, which is good, but then also showing up really well in team fights later on. It feels like his late game team fight positioning is actually really good. Maybe that's helped by being an AD carry from another season.
Yeah.
But it was frustrating to play against a Victor and Azir that felt like they knew exactly where to stand in order to just carry a team fight. Late game, he feels really hard to exploit, despite being on one of these kind of more immobile carries that should be more vulnerable.
All right. With that is my number 4 pick, where I have Flash of Night. And so, man, let's talk about this a little bit, because I gave Flash of Night the big dickens for the entire season. And honestly, like, man, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I don't know. But anyways, let's talk about Flash for a little bit. From the moment I saw he was going to play mid lane, and he was coming from top lane, which, my god, his top lane performances were not it. I thought he was going to be horrible. But, you know, as the season went on, and especially, and I don't know if this is biased because I was playing with him, and because we have an ungodly level of synergy for absolutely no reason. I don't know what it is. I feel like playing with Flash felt very clean, and I could actually move on the map. That being said, I think Flash is very intelligent about the game, or is a lot more in mid lane, I would say, than he was in top lane, in terms of like matchups and who should win each matchup, how he should play the matchup, and what to not do in order to screw himself up. That being said, maybe his mechanics and combos are not the cleanest, as we can see, but he really showed up when it mattered, especially like when we decided that we were going to stall out the game a little bit for him to come into the game, and he ended up like outputting damage in the fights. Let's not talk about his Veigar damage, okay? He was just there for the cage. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think Flash is a lot better of a player than people actually give him credit for, and if he's still gold 4 for some reason next season, he would probably be a big steal for like teams that are in need of like a scaling laner, I would say. Maybe, yeah. So, yeah. Faye, you have a Addy OD in lane.
So in the beginning of the season, Addy OD, I believe he only had like 2 champions or 3 champions he was amazing at, and then the rest, like anything else, he kind of just fell off. And I think he really stepped up for his team by including other champions like Vlad and Swain and I think like Akshan into his champ pool. And I thought that was really great of him to do for his team because then that didn't just target like that didn't just shut down their one solid carry because ADOD can carry, I feel, and he's great at that. But he does have his times where he's, on and off like everyone else. But like I felt like people say he's very inconsistent sometimes. And I think his last game against CWG, he was a little bit inconsistent, especially on his main Silas. But I thought he plays laning really well, and he's a dominant mid laner.
Yeah,
Personally.
coming off the back of that, I think the devs just kind of evolved as a team, and so in some cases it's like difficult to rank them. But it was really fun to watch them kind of like be able to play the game in a lot of different ways towards the end of the season. And I think Logic should probably be a bit lower here just because I think everybody expected a little bit more from him. And it was just kind of a unfortunate situation. And that things didn't work out. And that they couldn't mesh a little bit more together. So I think he probably should be a little bit lower just because I expected more of him. I think a lot of people expected more of him, even though individually I don't think he played poorly at all. Yeah.
All right. Well, then I'll toot up my hot daddy since no one else
Yes.
here is willing to do it. So in our games, if I ever said, okay, we have a dragon in 30 minutes, can you make it to it? Or in the 30 seconds, sorry, can you make it to dragon? My hot daddy was the kind of guy to like sack the wave if he had to and just show up. So he was always willing to sack gold. He would always be there for any fight that I ever called him to. There was even like really funky invades in some games where I feel like I was in the enemy jungle like level 3, and he's there as well, following me up, making sure that I'm not gonna just end this invade away. If I ever asked for prio, he had it. It was like probably I think within our entire team, he and I were like always on the same page. He played his champs really well. The reason I drafted him actually was because he had this very diverse champion pool, it felt like.
Mhm.
Not even including the Malzahar, which we didn't bring out too much. But he played his role so well. And then on top of that, I feel like Monsters Inc. in general is a team that had usually 3 carry threats, which was something unique about us. And he was that third carry, where it was if ADC was ever falling behind, it was always mid that could bring the damage to a fight, especially in the mid game.
All right. Moving on. Number 3. This is where I have ADOD in lane. And honestly, this was like... I actually had to kind of think about this for a little bit because taking a step back after like the series that we played against them, I finally realized what it is. And I think it's because... So the reason everyone like... I know everyone says that like Addy only plays like assassin champions, but I think he doesn't actually only play assassin champions in that manner. I would say that I'm pretty sure the reason he plays them is because he enjoys playing hard champions, and honestly, it really shows because like, especially as a colleague, he's super cracked at it, and his Silas is also very good. And just like the idea of him like playing those champions and then finally seeing him move to something like Swain, you can tell like he can actually play other champions and he knows how to play mid lane. His mechanics are very clean. It's just the downside of that is certain champions, like for an example, I will say like Twitch mid, right? You can tell when like one game he popped off where the enemy laner didn't know how to play into his champion, but then you also play versus an Azir player like Ben who actually knew exactly what he needed to do, shove him off wave, make sure he doesn't like he can't like just sack his farm and roam, and then like also playing around him to make sure that he can't walk anywhere. So I think that's like a huge part of why he is at number 3, and it's because like although he's really cracked, I think he lacks a lot of game knowledge, and that contributes to a lot of his losses, to be honest. So number 3, Faye has Flash,
I do.
the highest one.
Honestly, I feel like Flash is the most improved player, like, out of everyone this whole season in any role. I was surprised to hear
Yeah.
that he just started mid lane, this season, right?
Yep.
So, I remember when I was put mid in the beginning, and lo and behold, I was actually able to like lane against him and do well. But as the season went on and on, he really showed up for his team, and I played some ranked games with him, and you just hear like how he like views the game. He's always talking about like the wave and the matchups and how it should be played and stuff like that. And I thought that was like, really amazing. And in his most recent series, the past like 2 of them, he's really showed up for his team, and he's able to be like that backbone instead of being just that extra player. And I thought he had stood out a lot in the mid lane because of that.
Agreed. All right, my hot daddy, you have him pretty high too.
Yeah. Before that, I think a lot of people will dedicate the success of CWG not only because Tim is insane, but also because Woojin wins those. But I think because of that, I don't think Flash of Night won't ever get the credit he deserves for like their loser bracket turbo speedrun.
I don't know about speedrun.
yeah, game 5 speedrun. Yeah,
Game
not
5
really,
speedruns.
but I think he probably won't ever get enough credit for that just because of how things worked. Also, whenever going on to my hot daddy, whenever I think people are annoying players, I think that's like my brain telling me that I'm like not admitting that they're good at the game and they know what they're doing. And my hot daddy was like always really annoying. And so, and like, I think the time I was on power rankings during the season, I had him much lower. But I think he proved me wrong, and I don't know. It was always difficult to play against him, and I'm willing to give him his props.
All right. Number 3, we have Setup from Soulpan.
Yeah, mine are gonna get controversial. So
Yes. I like this.
Setup is the upgraded version of Flash of Night. He scales really well. He's a very talented player, and he sits back. But I think that's what led to that. I think that's what led to Women Respector's downfall, was that he couldn't play the other style. He couldn't be the presence in mid that Eldaho maybe needed in order to pop off in jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as a result of that, it just puts him lower in my mind. I never got to play against Setup. I really wish my team had gotten a chance to play against Women Respectors. It never happened. But I feel like the other 2 mid laners left have the ability to put pressure on other lanes so much better in the early game than Setup does.
All right. With that, we're going to show 2-1. I have Setup at number 1 and Sparks at number 2. And dear God, let me explain it why before I get flamed. But so, while I do agree, Wes does a lot more when it comes to playing the game pre-level 11. See, the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, that matters more for a team, but as a laner, Jacob has always been solid, and even when he's behind, he's always a massive threat, and, like, you're always afraid of getting one shot by him, is the thing. I remember for an example, I remember in a specific instance where the rest of his team was probably down, like, 8k gold, and it was just him up, and the enemy team was doing Baron, and I just see Victor walk up and basically 1v9 them at that Baron, and they win the game because of it. Or no, they actually almost won the game. I remember they threw that game. But anyways, yeah, and honestly, just that type of player is like something I don't know if people can ever get out of the back of their minds. Not saying that like Sparks is like that much worse in that manner, but I feel like the difference between him and Sparks is Sparks plays very evenly and consistently throughout the game versus and like plays to like one, aid his team, or two, also like slowly scaling. But in the manner of slowly scaling, I would probably take Jacob every single time. That being said, I do agree with Paul that Jacob cannot play the other playstyle, and that does end up hurting their team. But in terms of like the actual individual player, I think I would say Jacob is probably the most ideal. I'll put it this way. In a way, it's kind of like Ben except Diamond.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Yeah, there we go. So yeah.
Yeah, and to go off of what you said, that's actually why I have setup as two. I guess I feel like he could have had more presence, but like you said, even if his team isn't doing like very well, he's always there to like stack up and eventually become like this monster, this wall to go against in the end. But I felt like pre late game, you don't really see him much, and you're not going in. But like he does so well at not being caught out of position or and managing his waves well and being where his team needs him to be. But I felt like Sparks just had like a bigger impact on the game. Being on his team too, he is like a really solid backbone where he's like, oh, can we catch this guy? It's like completely illegal for him to be out here. Can we do something about this? Can we do something about that?
He does say that word a lot.
He's like, can we do something about this? And we're like, I don't know, maybe. And he's like, wait, they just used all this on us. Let's go in right now. And it's I think it's like, to me, when people just know cooldowns and stuff, like and just keeps track of that stuff like all the time, it's like stands out a lot to me. So being on his team, I have to give it to him. That I feel like he shone really bright.
That's fair. And I think, like, honestly, these two could probably flip back 1 and 2. It honestly really depends on how people view the game and how they would measure an individual player. If it were in terms of, like, if I value team play a lot more, I think it would probably be Wes at number 1 too. And that's for the reason that you said, where I feel like Wes actually says it. I know Jacob probably knows what it is, but he doesn't actually tell his team, and his team dies sometimes from it. But yeah. Dan, you have the same as me, set up in Sparks, number 1 to 2. Let's hear it.
Yeah. As far as that play style of I'm playing Victor, like I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna really like follow my jungler too aggressively, but I'm gonna one-shot you at 25-30 minutes, like that kind of thing. I think setup is just like a tick above Sparks in that department. But I will say Sparks, like, I don't know whether it's like ability or like willingness to play like Swain or something just more oriented that way. And I think his willingness to do that, plays like Swain or Silas or something like that, really saved us a few times. So I think Sparks is better at that.
All right. And then finally, number 1 Addy OD from Paul.
So I'll start with Sparks.
Yeah.
Sparks was the second best jungler in La Liga. Um, Absolutely horrifying to play against. I think more than any other person, actually, Sparks was the biggest point of frustration for my hot daddy. Um, Consistently, um, it felt like he was finding advantages in lane. He has this crazy big champ pool. It feels like he can play both styles. He does tend to favor, I think, melee and mids, maybe when they aren't the best option. Um, but I think he was also put in a position that game to be the carry. It was a really rough time for the Froggy Fighters, so I think all the turmoil on that team made it really hard for him to be as successful as he could have been. But I do put him above setup because he has that ability to switch up the play style. And now for Adio D and lane. This obviously, like, everyone like wants to put setup Sparks as like 1 and 2. Adio D and lane has some issues that are very clear. But keep in mind, he started this season at Plat 4, climbed to Diamond 4 this season, knows as much about wave states as he does, knows as much about playing high mechanical champions as he does. It is so much easier to teach an Akali player to play Swain than to teach a Swain player to play Akali.
Yep.
Next season, I am expecting ADOD in lane to be definitively the best mid laner, and it's not going to be close.
Okay.
I am horrified of what he will do to the entire league next season.
Oh.
Yes. And yeah, I think a lot of people actually have really high hopes for Addy next season because honestly, the more assassins he learns how to play, because like I noticed he's been picking up that Kiana.
Horrifying.
You can't ban them all. You can't ban them all, guys.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're moving on. ADC. All right, I'm gonna try to speed it up a little bit because we're going pretty long this time, but there is a lot to talk about since this is the entire season. So, but anyways, here are the community rankings, and I will say one interesting fact: every single person voted Goblin number 1 except one person, except one. And I know I'm like almost sure I know who it is, but I'm not gonna say who it is. No. We ain't exposing him like that, or her. But it makes sense. So, at number 10, we all have main G, and honestly, I honestly have no words besides like I cannot put main G any higher. Main G was a better mid laner than AD carry. I'll say that. That's what I'll say. All right. You guys have anything else to add on for that?
Main G, please come back next season. Not sure what happened, but I hope that you can pop off.
Play mid lane next season, actually. Though I remember the REM being pretty clean. So, how about Dan? Anything?
Not really.
He was asleep during that game too. All right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add for main G, Faye?
No, we never played against them, and I wish we did. But yeah, you should come back. Play mid.
Yes, play mid, like Faye did at the start of the season, and then changed.
Yeah.
Disappointment. All right, but anyways, move on. At number 9, I have NA Valiant. JP, where do I start? First of all, JP was on a pretty doomed team, and I don't think it really helped that. I don't really think that he did. It wasn't all his fault, but at the same time, NA Valiant, more like NA Valorant. I'll go with that one. So, yeah. At number 9, oh my god, Faye has Strand. Oof.
Now that I rethink it over, I do think NA Valiant should be there. But I think I had Strand so low because I didn't feel like he had a super strong presence in lane. But other than that, I don't really have much else to say because I can't remember.
All right. And then You have Red Ranger at number 9.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's a product of like his team. I think that like it like mid to top side, everybody was a threat.
Hmm.
Like at least just more so than him. And I'm not sure how many Jinx bans he drew, but I think when he was off Jinx, he struggled more than when he was on Jinx. I think, yeah, I think it's a little bit product of his environment, but I don't think I remember him like popping off like too hard. Like when I play against Jinx, like I have PTSD of like Rob. Like, yeah.
All right. Moving on. We'll get to Sulpan whenever he comes back. Oh, hey, Sulpan's back. All right. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. For you to explain. We'll just have you go from JP straight up to Nightmare. So.
Sure. For JP, I think he suffers a lot from champion pool issues to begin with.
That's a big
This
one too.
this is not the league to be playing Samira in, especially with the roster of ADCs that is in this league. On top of that, I think like that was their main champion. If like they ever got it, I was expecting them to pop off on it, and I just feel like it didn't ever happen the way it should have gone. As for Nightmare, I think this is kind of a similar boat. I feel like Nightmare kind of drafted themselves with players into a corner where there are all these extremely powerful bot lane combos, and then Nightmare had a silver support who was doing their best, but when you're playing with when the support is the character that decides the lane, there's not much choice that Nightmare I feel like had. And even through that, I felt like he could have been doing more in the lanes to try and make up for having a less high pressure support, and it just never happened either.
I can't tell if you were being super savage to Pizza Dog because he's plat, or if you were calling him silver because he's.
Wait, am I mixing something up?
You might be.
I didn't want to say anything. But,
Well,
no.
maybe I am being a savage. Let me check out other power rankings really quick.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's
I'm
okay.
just thinking. I don't know. I feel like that lane just never popped off the way. In that case, like that lane definitely didn't pop off the way.
No,
it
I
I
agree.
think I'm thinking of Logic and his support.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nightmare, with a powerful support, I feel like was not the lane dominant ADC that I was expecting him to be.
Yep. So. And then you guys both have JP. Any thoughts on JP? You know, NA Valorant. Dan.
huh? Oh.
Oh,
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go
I was
sleep.
looking I just think he was a better mid than he was an AD the games he played mid. I think every game I could recall from memory that I watched, he was on MF, and it was just kind of like even before or after her numbers changed and when they adjusted her. I don't know. I just think it was like stable but not like decent stable, like just a little bit below decent stable. I don't know.
All right. And then Faye, as for JP.
Yeah, I also felt like he was there on his team, and he didn't make a huge he didn't make a huge impact in any most of the games. I feel bad for him, but yeah, I just have him low. Sorry.
All right, number 8. Okay, all right. Kuroi was on my team. This is nothing. It's not that like she played bad or anything. I think, to be honest, she's a big victim of. I think her gameplay is a big victim of we don't really play the bot side for 1. 2, we kind of pick the same champions for her every single time, or we pick champs for her that like don't actually mesh with the support pick, and it ends up just completely ruining their gameplay, and I have no idea like how to like look at their individual laning objectively, because like it's so hard for them to play the game with the state that we set her up in. Um, but other than that, I would like to say that one of the biggest reasons I think I have Kurai here is because of one collecting. I think she has a problem with knowing which waves she needs to collect, and tends to like play around like what the team needs more. Even though like I feel like the strong point as an AD carry is knowing that like, hey, I need this farm because when I get X item, X item, X item, I will carry the game. So that's a big part for me. But honestly, I think probably like 8 to 6, 6, 7, 8 are all like very close for me, and I probably would have no problem just throwing them in the bag and then shuffling them. So, yeah. With that, I will also talk about my number 7 pick, which is Strand. And where do I start? I think Strand is like, and honestly, I think this season Strand is like Korai, but like a bit better, in which they play very similar champions and they play like very similarly. But I think Strand has played the champions for longer, so it feels like he's a bit more stable with it. I think the problem with Strand is also that I just feel like yes, maybe he can have good MF ults, but I feel like ultimately, when it comes down to it, Steven never actually carries the game, and he kind of just plays to like survive lane in a way. Um, yeah, and I see everyone else has Kurai at number 7, and we'll start with Faye.
I feel so bad putting her so low, because I feel like she's like the most like dig through gravel and dirt type of ADC this season.
Yeah.
Because she's always playing from behind, but like she's always like, well, she's mostly like has always had a presence, because she's made a lot of comebacks in lane, or just from like farming up. Other people don't really pay attention to her because of that, like her kind of poor laning, because they take advantage of how she plays, and she does try to play like aggressively in lane.
Yeah.
But when you just like, a lot of people like just shove the lane into her and stuff, it's hard. But I thought she like played really well with Jinx and Ashe, and she's had like a lot of good Ashe ults and MF ults, but she just gets caught out a lot with Ty.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's cost her a lot of games.
That's also something I'd like to add on to, is that she knows how to play the game when she has lane prow, but when she doesn't have lane prow, it becomes very difficult for her. And I feel like there's when a lot of pressure is put on her lane, then I feel like she doesn't know when to know when she needs to walk away and just sack farm, because it can feel like the end of the world if you're missing a few CS, but honestly, most of the time, missing it is probably just better than straight out dying. So, yeah. And Dan, anything to add on?
Yeah, number 1, Faye touched on, like, I think if she can understand playing weak side bot a little better, or just managing waves a little bit better, and number 2, if she can have just like 2 or 3 other champions that she can play as proficiently as Jinx, I think she'll be much higher, or at least higher, in like following seasons.
And then Paul, finally.
5, 6, 7 will be to me are the same person. These ADCs played the exact same style the entire season. I think even each of them popping to Jinx in at least one game, just as like a carry threat. But out of the 3, I would say Korra is probably the weakest.
Okay. It's fair. Alright, with that, at number 6, I give Red a lot of shit, guys, okay? To be honest, in power rankings. But honestly, like when I was watching the devs playoff run, his Tristana is actually not bad. I think it can be better, but like, dude, we just... It just feels like every time a team picks Tristana, there is almost no answer to it. Or like, it's like... it's not that there's no answer to it. It feels like no matter what team finds the answer, it's hard, honestly. And okay, listen. I know Red is not like the cleanest AD carry in terms of mechanics or like, just like farming. But the thing is, like, he knows how to play aggressively and play his lane to win a lot of times, and I think that's like something that a lot of laners really underestimate, and sometimes they just randomly end up dying, even though like it might not even be a good play, but it just happens and they die. Okay, but yeah, it's a AD carry die or bot lane die or I die sort of like feeling is what I get from Red. Versus like I would say like Strand and Kuroi are like playing to like make sure that they're still useful later. So yeah. Anyways, moving on. You also have Red at 6, Faye.
Yes, I to be honest, you'd like touched on most of what I was thinking too. But I don't know. I do feel like I put him at 6 because I did feel like he was a little bit better than Kuroi, just as a laner. But outside of lane, I felt like he didn't have that same presence
I agree.
that he could have.
Yeah. I think outside of lane, probably Kuroi is better and maybe Strand, but I think Red's team fight positioning is like the biggest thing that needs a lot of work. He's like caught out a lot, so. But yeah, anyways, we have the appearance of the first PP player, baby. Dan, let's hear it.
So the thing is, like, with Monsters Inc., at least usually, my hot daddy is like supportive mid laner, follow Soulpan, like make the team's life easier. Unless he's on Vex, then like he's a monster. But and Injustice is always the most solid rock you've ever seen. It's like the rock that holds Arthur's sword in it or whatever. You know what I mean? And I think this is like completely regardless of builds, like that's not even part of this. I think I just expected a little bit more from him. I know he's a diamond tier player. Like I not even if he's plat, like I don't care. Like, I think he could be diamond, and I think he definitely like still quote unquote carried a lot of games. But I don't know. I think he could still like carry harder and do better.
All right. And then Paul, last Red Ranger.
So 5 and 6 was really hard for me to decide between.
Yep.
I think Red Ranger had arguably a weaker support, but also a support that wasn't willing to pick enchanters.
Fair.
Which, Strand does have that advantage for him.
Yes.
Who is next? So it's hard to go between the two, but I think Red Ranger played the weak side for his team phenomenally well throughout every single game the devs played, and it's exactly what he needed to do. So it was a style that they could stick through the entire time, and they had the pocket pick Jinx and Tristan that they were just ready with.
All right. That at number 5, I have Nightmare, and Paul, the entire conversation Paul had earlier about Nightmare being at number 8 and not being able to like hard carry his lane or hard carry his team. That was like a big reason why I was thinking about putting Nightmare lower, but honestly, in terms of like pure mechanics and actual laning skill, and even outside of lane, I don't think like Nightmare is worse than any of the people below him in any world. But I think with his performance this season, in terms of like what he actually did, he can never be never be above anyone from where he's at right now. So, for the season at least. So that's a big reason why he's 5 for me. And I think this is probably the most fair spot that I can put him in, even with his rank. So, Faye, you have anything to add on to that?
No, I agree with you. I feel bad because I feel like he is one of the better ADCs. but maybe it was, like everyone says, like his environment, the situation he was put in. So yeah.
I do think he did not put himself in a good situation in the first place too. But honestly, at the same time, with Pizza Dog, I feel like they should have popped off, especially with how Pizza Dog played last season. So, yeah. All right, and then Dan at number 5, Strand.
I think I expected less from Steven than what he performed. I think you can't really, if you do ban MF, like, you're losing so much value somewhere else. With the way their team is structured, or their team's gaining value somewhere else. And I feel like he was always really annoying to play against in team fights, even though like we weren't like focused on Strand per se. So that's why I have him at 5.
All right, and then you also have Strand at number 5. What do you have to say about that?
Strand to me is the best version of this AD carry. The Ashe Misfortune Jinx player, he was definitely the most consistent. Maybe again, there's the argument where Enchanter versus non-Enchanter, but I think Strand showed really high-level gameplay through the entire season.
Okay.
Against in the most competitive role that we have as well.
Of course, yeah. The ADC is by far, I think, the most competitive role. So, in terms of like who trying to be in the top tier at least. So
yeah.
All right, with that at number 4, this is where I have, dare I say it, Proton Plat player. And before anyone says anything, okay, I'm trying to be objective about this. And even with his bad building, they are still able to win games with him most of the time. That being said, maybe it throws a few games, but I don't think you can really complain about his builds given the way that he actually plays the game. And I think it's he's played very well. There is not, honestly, objectively, there is like very little that is wrong with Proton's laning. That being said, I think the biggest problem with Proton is his problem outside of lane, where he's actually mispositioned a lot, and I think it comes from the manner of just like thinking he's very strong, when sometimes he forgets he's an AD carry and then he just gets one shot instead. But other than that, I think like, yeah, Proton, he is very innovative, and honestly, sometimes the innovation can do wonders and can even be an advantage in his favor. That being said, I will say 80% of the builds that are out of the world are not mathematically correct, but that being said, I still think Proton is a really good player, and with more games and more time, he can definitely be diamond and be competing. Like, I'm not saying that he hasn't been competing, honestly. Like, I think he can like truly be competing according to the community and top like top 3 in AD carry, if he cleans up his gameplay or his mid to late game gameplay a little bit, along with maybe lessening the innovation a little bit. But yeah, and the rest of you guys have Asteria at number 4. So
yes,
start with Faye.
I thought I honestly think that Asteria is a really good ADC. He did do some troll picks with like Karthus and Ziggs, I believe, in some of his early games. And that was like against several different teams too. But in his like last game before they went out, he carried pretty hard in some of those games, and I think he got like a quad on Samira, and he was doing really well, and he plays lane really well too, and he knows his matchups and when to go in, and like this cooldown of people and wave management. But I don't know. I feel like he could have played a little bit better.
Fair. All right, Dan. Korai?
So I've played La Liga for 3 complete seasons now, and every single year, my captain has been an ADC. Um, I think obviously I didn't get to hear his comms this year. I think he still has a lot to learn as a leader, and not only communicating what he wants out of his team, but like kind of rallying the troops, if you will. Um, I think mechanically, like I don't think there's anything he needs to like work on really. I mean, they were the only team to beat GWD in a series, so there's obviously something there, right? Um, but I think I still think he could be a lot better.
All right, but yeah, um, and Paul with Korai.
So I have Korai here because I've played with him before. I'm accounting for quite a bit of this into this. But it feels like they're a player that meme shot calls and it hurts them. So like the games I've played with Korai, it's like I'll gank bot lane and then he'll ask me to come back, but like in like kind of a joking way. And so I can't actually tell if he thinks me going bot lane again is a good call or if he just wants more resources because he likes carrying the game. Um, I think he's a talented player, knows his matchups well. He was probably the best chance that La Liga had of matching Goblin Hollow's even lane from an ADC standpoint. Um, but it feels like they're missing something to push them into the top three.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I feel like he had it earlier in the season, and this is actually where I have Korai. I mean, I objectively for me, I would say, man, I will say, Proton has thrown more games than Korai has, and Korai didn't even make it that far. So, and to be honest, Mug Maniacs was a disappointment, but I don't think it's entirely on Korai either. Like you have some games where he was getting like, I think there were literally 2 games where he got pentakills and they still lost. And honestly, like most of the times it's not his fault because especially in the late game when one other person gets caught out, the and death timers are at like 50 seconds, it just becomes that much harder to like defend the base, and you probably like most of the time lose the game off of it in that sense. But I will say as like a player, I think I was a little bit disappointed by Korai this season. I really think he should have been at least competing top 2 with Goblin. So but yeah. Number 3, this is where Faye has PP player.
So I agree with you. I really do think he plays really well in lane. His whole laning phase and even outside of lane he does really well, except for when he does get that lead and then he becomes too overconfident and then probably makes bad plays. But other than that, I think he's done really well this whole season and he's played really well. And I think there might have been like some miscommunication between him and his support because there were some times where he did get caught out bot lane where he would like try to be a little bit too aggressive.
Yep.
But other than that, like he played lane really well. He played the game really well. He knew what he needed to do other than what he needed to build, but yeah.
All right. And number 3, my God, we got sporadic. Number 3 for both Dan and Paul. You guys have been like on point in a lot of these picks, like to be honest.
Well,
Great minds.
yeah, let's just not look at my mid rankings. I think that's about it. But, I love Ethan. Ethan is a great captain. He's a great ADC player. But I still think there were some like very, very few times where saying he ran it down is aggressive and incorrect. But like in that regard, and like he would admit it. Also, I hate when my ADCs pick Caitlyn and they auto once every like 4 seconds, and they win lane, and they come out of lane with a Gale Force and a Rapid Fire, and the other team has an Ornn and I don't know. I hate Caitlyn, but Ethan played great this season. He proved that he can play with anybody, and there's no universe where he's not top 3. And I think he knows he could even play a little bit better, so that's why I'm going to put him at 3 and not 2.
All right. And Paul?
So Sporadic, I think, has one of my favorite, personally, champion pools in ADCs. I feel like he was willing to pick some of the more out there champions, at least at the very least Kai'Sa. I think Kai'Sa was an insane pick that was slept on throughout most of the season. I do think that Sporadic, more than others, has less of a willingness to play the weak side role. Even when maybe it could have been an option or an angle for them. And so I think the lack of flexibility makes me want to put him 3rd.
All right, fair. And with that, we'll show top 2. All right. So I have Sporadic at 2, and unsurprisingly, all of us have Goblin. But I'll start with Sporadic first. I think in terms of being like what a player can bring to the team, I think Sporadic is very different in the manner where he is not just like mechanically good, he's also a very good in-game leader, and having hands and being able to tell the rest of the team what should be going on is actually very unique and not very common in La Liga, I would say. So, and I think it's probably like one of like 3 people who can actually do that. So, and I think the value of him being able to do that while also like being able to like play the game very well, puts him at number 2 for me. So, and as for Goblin, I really don't think there's too much to say. Like, besides that one week where he didn't eat dinner, it seems like he ate dinner the rest of the week. So it seems like he's pretty healthy and happy. So, yeah. That's all I'll say about Rob. All right, and then you also have the same top 2. Anything to add on to that, Faye?
Yes, I put Lidor as 2 because he's a great player and a leader, and he's like one of the main backbones of our team. He's a great shot caller. He's really good at that, and against most of the teams, he has fallen asleep. And then against most of the teams, he shot calls really well, and if he's not, if there's not too much pressure on him, like against ZWD, where he has to focus really hard on farming and keeping even at least, he does really well and is good at shot calling if those conditions aren't met, like. But so I have Goblin as 1 because he's been like the most consistent ADC this season. And I think out of all the ADCs here, he's wave managed like so perfectly out of everyone, and he's just played his role, been in position every fight and everything, and has done what he needed to do.
All right. And with that, Goblin and Nightmare. That's honestly, Nightmare's not a name I expected to see up here. Let's hear it, Dan.
I think Nightmare is cracked out of his mind. I think he drafted Pizza Dog, like knowing Pizza Dog is also a good player, but I don't know, it just like didn't turn out. And I think he wanted to play with his friends, and so that like obviously that he kind of hurt himself. But I don't know. I think he's the most like mechanically like gifted. I don't know about like like Rob's macro or like Sporadic's like team leading, but I think as far as like being an ADC goes, I think Nightmare's correct. And then Slobby Robbie, number one. I love Rob. Rob is part of the reason I am now a platinum top laner with a silver 4 brain. I think you can say whatever you want about ZWD, but at the end of the day, like, they're cracked, and Rob is their captain. So, yeah.
All right. And finally, Paul, Goblin and the fabled Proton Plat player.
I'll start with Goblin since it's my least controversial.
Yeah.
Goblin, I felt like, was the one player who, on a shot calling level, was outplaying me throughout all of La Liga. I never felt like no one ever called me on like wacky bluffs. Like he just ran down my towers sometimes with his entire team as 5. He's incredibly mechanically talented. I'm not sure how much shot calling he does. I've never like listened in on ZWD's comms before, but I'm pretty sure he is hardcore leading that team as well. Maybe doesn't get the credit for it. But his knowledge and willingness to move around the map as an ADC is also unmatched, and that's just the blood of Twitch running through his veins, I guess. But it was horrifying seeing Twitch show up top lane, mid lane, Herald, in my jungle. Feels like he's just everywhere at all times, and if you're not saving cooldowns specifically to deal with him, because you didn't notice him going missing, then you're going to die to him. Proton Plat player. I have notes because I wanted to make sure I got everything across that I wanted to hear.
Okay. I'm
so
excited.
With Proton Plat player, I got asked a lot, like if I ever get my choice, like right at the start of the season, not even like throughout the season, because people like again, La Liga lore dump happened like after all that. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'll be honest, you do have to walk a fine line between indulging and confidence with Proton Plat player. You have to feed him confidence and that you trust what he's doing, but also there's like always the risk of Iceborne Gauntlet Zeri coming out. But the thing is, he knew he was trolling in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time with his builds, I admire his thought process, because what he says in game and in comms, it makes sense for the situation. It might not be mathematically correct, but the reason he is building his items makes sense to him, and that's what matters. He has thought through the process. He says, okay, I'm going Bork here because I need the move speed to be able to get away from the set. That makes sense. Most players are just too brain dead to deviate from their U.GG build. He's brave enough to do it, and he gets shit on for the games that he does it and loses, and doesn't get shit on for the games he does it and wins, because no one's going to pay attention to those.
Fair.
On top of that, if I picked him a lane dominant champion, it was Lane Kingdom. A lot of credit to Ultras as well. If I picked him a weak side champion, also did a phenomenal job. He was willing to play Ashe multiple games at Tristana, which is an insane, awful counter lane, but he was willing to play for the team. He can pick Senna. On top of the wacky picks like Graves and Yasuo, he's willing to bring out in the right situations. And then last thing I'll touch on here is that his biggest problem is that everyone is so focused on his builds that no one is seeing his best positioning in team fights except for apparently Wuchen. So there is that. But overall, he was a very good pick, and I would absolutely draft him first round again.
All right. Good take. I like that take. Very bold and brave. All right, with that, we're at the end of our ADC picks, and we're finally at the support rankings. I know...
I'm gonna fall asleep.
I know some people have been waiting for this. All right, but let's get it going with the community rankings. And honestly, I don't think there's too many surprises in here, maybe besides the middle pack. With that, we'll just get past number 10. Gopta, and I know this was not the original support, but man, I didn't even know who I was supposed to put on here, to be honest, because of how many times they changed their support. But I'm just gonna put Gopta here, and honestly, I think no matter who actually played the support, this is probably where they would have been. So, we're just gonna go to number 9. Actually, this is where we get into the good stuff, and I have the Pizza Dog at number 9. And I'm going to be honest, I was very, very and utterly disappointed by the Pizza Dog this season, and I'm not really sure what it was. I can't tell if like it was like their team as a whole was just not synergizing, or if he and Saul were not just synergizing, or maybe it's even like the champion pool that's a problem. But I expected Pizza Dog to be a lot more lane dominant, looking for a lot more plays, but it feels like he just looked less, and every time they did look, it just went chaotically wrong. So, and I hope he comes back, but I'm not expecting a repeat of this season. If he does come back, I'm expecting him to be a lot better. So, yeah. And for you, Faye, I'm sure it's like somewhere something similar.
Yeah, same. No flame. I really did think Pizza Dog was also silver, but knowing that he's plat, I'm a little bit disappointed in how he played then. But because he had a really good ADC too. But hopefully we do see him next season.
All right, and then for you, Dan.
He was my support last season. Not only did his champion pool get one nerfed, two hurt by durability patch, but also I think not that Nightmare is a downgrade of an ADC from Rob, who he had season 3. I don't really think it is at all, but as far as like probably telling him what to do all the time, I'm guessing Rob was either better or more accurate, and so I think that had something to do with it. But I think he also just had a bad season in general, and I was hoping for more out of him because I know he's good. So.
All right, and then we have "Ty is Cool" by Soulpan. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So I think bottom support rankings are pretty hard. I think Ty is Cool played a singular style and never deviated. I think it was like insane amounts of Seraphine games. It's something we're never really willing to ban or exploit because we also like picking Seraphine. But I was really curious, like what the plan was for the team if they ended up not getting that pick. Because it felt like they didn't have much else in the tank, but also there's just too many other points of pressure within Crocs with Glocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, they yeeted a few Seraphine ults in the wrong directions. A few times.
Yeah, maybe. All right. With that, number 8, I have Gourmet Cookies, and I think I will give Gourmet Cookies the label of probably the most disappointing La Liga player this season, honestly. And it's because, dude, I expected Gourmet Cookies to. I know he's playing support, but like, when you're playing support at this level, I expect you to be able to make a lot more plays and be able to put your team into the game, just based on like your roam timings, your vision. Because especially when you're comparing yourself to like the bottom half of the tier, and people like Venom, who are, were supposedly considered, just silver supports coming into the league, and then you just absolutely get gapped and shattered by them. That, I don't know, but yeah, that's all I have to say about Gourmet Cookies. I was expecting a lot more, so. All right, next, you have Pat Clark at number 8. Okay.
Yeah, I guess with like the hype of everyone's like hyping up Pat Clark, I was expecting a lot more, but I don't know. I felt like he didn't perform as well as he could have.
Mm-hmm.
Another person who got shit on by Enchanter meta.
Yep. Victim.
Yeah,
All right.
I think he played a lot of like a Amumu support.
Yeah, and honestly, when they played the Amumu, it just didn't really work out, is what it felt like, so I get that. Alright, but for the last 2, you guys also have Gourmet Cookies. Dan, care to elaborate a little bit?
If he doesn't come back to top lane next season, I will give him a spanking IRL. I don't know what he's doing in this role. I think he's really good. Um, he played a lot of games with me. Played a lot of games with me this season in solo duo. I think. Don't get me wrong. I think his rank is deserved, but at the same time, I think he's inflated.
Damn.
I think
He can't say one and hit with the other, bro.
I don't know. Like, I think he deserves to be like that level of a player in that ranking, but it's like, I don't know. If he's not, I don't know. I expected more from him, and I think almost everybody expected more from him. Hopefully, he expected more from himself. Um, I know that his team had a lot of fun, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think he should have performed better.
Fair. All right, Paul.
Yeah, Gourmet Cookies won in fun points, but he didn't want to win in fun points. He wanted to win. I think he came to the league with a very bad mindset. This like self-defeatist prophecy of support can't carry, therefore I'm not going to. I think he could have put in the time to learn different champions, to try like pick up like a roaming support, find ways that you can affect the rest of the map if that's what your issue is.
Yep.
But he never, it felt like, tried to make that happen, and so I don't know, either go top or go home, I guess. But I know he's capable. I know he's capable. I want to see him come back next season.
Yeah.
I miss
He
his
did try.
fabled-
He did try at the very end of the season when he played Bard. It just wasn't not enough time. It was a little bit too late, to be honest. But
I miss when he played Tom Kench, and he was the first person to introduce me to Tom Kush instead of Tom Kench.
All right, at number 7, this is where I have Ty, and I think Goblin said it earlier. Ty is caught, and that is the biggest reason why I have him at number 7. And yeah, while he does whiff a lot of Seraphine ults, he does throw a lot of good Seraphine ults, whether or not they are intentional as like he planned them to be. But at the very end of the day, I think Ty has 2 major issues. One is he roams when he doesn't need to, or like just to hover like a jungler or like jungle. Like most of the time, like whenever he hovers, it's like a time where I know that enemy jungle is not going to be there and I don't need a hover. And in that manner, it's not necessarily terrible for him, but it puts his 80 carry in a vulnerable state, and that actually put like Kuroi in a big hole, which is a big problem. That being said, most of the reason why his ranking is this low is because just randomly in the mid game or during the late game, he'll get picked for absolutely no reason, or like be picked in a spot where we know they're at or we have vision of, and we are just like, talking about how like we shouldn't give them a look. But even when we know that they're coming, they somehow like are allowed to be given a look anyways. And whether or not that look is taken all the time, in like big moments of the game where it really matters, it has like lost us the game a few times over. But I think like Ty overall is like can be a very good player. Given like his lane is like pretty good, but his mid game and late game definitely needs some work. So yeah, Michael is very positive though. I love playing with Michael. So, and then Faye at number 7, you have Gourmet Cookies here, similar spot.
Yeah, you guys pretty much touched on everything. I was expecting a lot out of him when we were playing against him, but I kind of fell short. I did like his Nunu jungle though. He played a really good Nunu jungle.
He joins the jungle psychopaths. But anyways, at number 7, Dan has Venom.
Venom was surprisingly like kind of a backbone of his team, and I think he performed better than like a lot of people would have imagined. I don't have too much to say about him negatively, really. I think there's just supports that are a little bit better than him, but he's cracked on Thresh. I think he not single-handedly, but like made us lose some games against the devs. Yeah.
All right. And number 7, you have the pizza dog up here, Paul. The
I
silver support.
I've got nothing to add here. I mean, yeah, I expected a lot more, and it didn't feel like the expectation was met.
That's fair. Bottom tier. All right, we're moving on. Number 6. 3 of us have Shmi here, Shmi, and we talked about what was it? We talked about which support was it that dude, I can't even remember. Venom refusing to play enchanters. In that manner, the opposite player of that is Shmi, who only plays enchanters and has 0 flexibility. But the thing about Shmi is it plays the champions that are in meta. Yeah, Zyra. Besides his one trick, Zyra. But other than that, I think that Shmi doesn't play the game that well after laning, and even in lane, dude, I don't know what it is. I think Shmi and Strand sometimes have this anti-synergy where they're just not on the same page on what they want to do. So Shmi's playing super aggressively, and Steven is 10 years behind his wave, and I think that causes a big issue in their gameplay. That being said, I think Shmi also has a similar problem to Tai, where he's randomly caught out in the mid game because he wants to look for a play or look for a ward. But yeah, so. And yes, technically, Zyra counts as a caster enchanter. Okay, all right. You have anything else to add, Faye?
No, I agree that there was some anti-synergy between them. But I did enjoy playing against Shmi. He does play Zillion, I think, and I think I've seen him play Leona before. I'm not sure if he played it in series. He must have at one point because he was playing Leona in ranked, but he plays a really good Leona. But I think he stood out a little bit more than some of the other supports because of that. His Zyra is insane though. That was not fun. I never want to play against Zyra ever again. But I think he plays lane well. If he had an ADC that was also just as super aggressive, and I think he would shine a little bit more.
All right. And then we'll just go to Paul since he also has Shmi here. Anything else to add as well?
I think he's got the problem that Giuseppe Hack does. They're a skilled player overall at most of the champions, but they clearly they clearly achieved their highest peaks on one champion. And for him at Zyra, I think that there are other threats on their team that avoided Zyra from being taken away constantly. But I think Shmi might be a little bit exploitable as a player.
It's fair. All right, and then you have Tai at number 6, Dan.
Yeah. This might just be because when most of the times we played them, we let him have Seraphine, which was probably a mistake. Other than getting caught out here or there, I think at least as a support, his fundamentals of the game are pretty good. I think he has the potential. Maybe him and Venom, I think they have the potential out of all the supports to climb higher on this list.
All right. With that, we move on to number 5. Pat. I have Pat. Oh, but dear God, Pat, where do I... Oh, that's also who it was. Pat, the person... I guess Pat played a few enchanters, but other than that, not really. Okay, so Pat will play the enchanters, but he's not very good at the enchanters, to be honest, besides maybe Morgana. But other than that, Pat is more of an engaged player, and he is a huge victim of not being able to adapt his champion pool to what the meta is currently needing and serving, which was enchanters at the time. And not only that, but coupled with, I think Pat had a lot more going on in real life in comparison to the last season, he put in a lot less games like in the second half of the season compared to the first half, and I think it really showed, honestly. And I think that's a big contributor to why he's like not as good as he used to be, I would say. So, um, and number 5, Faye has Venom.
I do. I actually I wish Venom was a little bit more aggressive in like most of his series. Um I mean, I feel like other people would say otherwise, but he's a really really good Thresh player. Like he's really on point with hook. But there were some hooks that were just really short because he didn't just step up because he's always playing a little bit farther back, and you'll see that in a lot of his games. Um I think if he just plays a little bit more aggressively in lane, they would have been a little bit more dominant in the bot lane. And that would have also made his ADC shine a little bit more. But I think he's a really good support other than that.
All right, and then you also have Venom at number 5, Sulpan.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it right now, and I think I would actually want to switch number 5 and number 4. Number 4 is
bet.
actually going to be. Sorry.
Bet. Okay.
Okay. But I think Venom exceeded all expectations, mine included. I actually play a lot with Venom, like just for fun, ARAMs, Clash here and there, and still beyond everything I expected, like he popped off as a support, super hard. I think he still has issues. He doesn't play a lot of solo queue. I think his timers for wards aren't great. He could have more roam timers if he saw them, but he's still a very talented support. And surprise, I do not think he will be a last round pick next season.
Fair. All right, and with that last one of Shmi, what do you think, Dan?
I just remember it was Shmi and Strand for Women Respecters, right?
Yeah.
I just remember their bot lane always being like more prevalent and more annoying than I wish they were. I hate Zyra. I hate Misfortune.
MF Zyra, Ash Zyra every game.
Any support that builds Leandries and just kind of like throws stuff at you, Brand, Zyra, like rar. I think Shmi, I think he's fine. I think he dies for vision a little too much, but I think he's fine.
Fair. All right. With that, we'll move to number 4, and this is where my story of the day comes in, guys. Now people know I've been doing daily stories, but once upon a time.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just saw what Ethan
laughed.
said.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Once upon a time, there was a man named Venom. He joined the Liga, and everyone thought he was just a Silver 2 player. One day, he came to the league prepared and locked in Thresh. From then on, he became known as the Fisher, because all he did was land hooks on that champion each and every single game. So
that's the PG version of that story.
Yeah. But yeah, so Venom, I think, is a champ that many people underestimated, and I think he's probably like the best Silver Thresh player I've seen. I will say the only criticism I have about his Thresh is Lantern usage, but I think that's like a very much higher elo mechanic that also is involved with the AD carry or other people on the team being positioned and ready to take the Lantern as well, or like using it for different tactics. But yeah, I think I agree with Paul. He will probably not be like late round, and he has insane value, especially for his rank. So yeah. And at number 4, we have Faye. Or, no, not Faye. Sorry. At number 4, we have Ty for Faye. My brain was, oof.
Oh, okay. So, I think Ty is a really, really solid Seraphine player. I feel like he shines like the brightest on her. But, any of the other champs, like he does well, but he doesn't like perform mechanically as well on them.
Mm.
Like you said, he does get caught out a lot. Or not a lot, but he gets caught out enough, and you do see him roaming mid or just like hanging around mid, just being there, but not like doing anything, like not there to put wards, not there to put pressure. But he has had successful he
Yeah.
has had
Oh no.
successful roams mid. But I think he's a solid support, but stop. But yeah. That's why I have him there.
All right. Whenever Dan stops laughing, number 4. We have Pat Clark. He's dying.
I'm good.
Are you sure? Because you haven't
Yeah,
said
I'm good.
anything yet.
I'm good.
All right. Okay. So Pat, you have Pat number 4.
Pat, also a person I played solo duo with. I think Pat is cracked. I think he played obviously not to the level he played last season, and so people had like huge expectations.
Mm-hmm.
His champ pool got hit, but I still think he played just fine. I still think he made really good plays. He obviously is like pretty busy. I don't know. I think Pat Clark's really good.
All right. And then anything to add on to that, Paul? You also have Pat at number 4.
So actually, number 5, I switched him with Venom.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But it's another like La Liga lore dump that I think is doing him a disservice, because if it wasn't for the lore dump, I think I might have him ranked even lower. But everyone told me that Pat Clark was this insane, crazy support player, and then it just didn't happen in the league. I think he helped us here get a lot of leads. But if there is a Dade award to give out, I think it goes to Pat Clark this season.
Damn. Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. We're getting close to the end, guys. Number 3. We all have Fleeker. And I will start. If you told me that Faye was going to lock Blitzcrank in all 3 of our games in our series, I think I would have told them that they're insane, and there's no way she would actually pick that, even though we saw like 1 or 2 games of it in like solo queue or flex. Actually, Tim played with it, I'm pretty sure, once. But yeah, even on the game, like in game 2, where they were getting mauled and destroyed, all they had, she made an unbelievably insane amount of hooks that put them back into the game, and then we ended up losing because of it. And my God, that champion was just so annoying for us, and we had absolutely no answer into it. We just didn't respect it enough, and we should have banned it. And honestly, that along with the stability of play, not just in support but also mid lane, is a big reason why I have Faye at 3. So we'll let everyone else talk before we have Faye hype herself up. So let's go with the Dan first.
I don't know if there's a bigger like Giga Chad flex than like a Nami Lulu like enchanter player just like destroying you with Blitzcrank. I don't know. I'd be terrified if I got hooked and hurt. Like, I think I don't know. Flea's cracked. There's a reason that she's named Fleeker, nicknamed Fleeker. She gets really insane wards sometimes. She's just really good at backing people up, and unexpectedly, when she was playing Blitzcrank, was able to not back people up, but make the plays first. And I think not only did she have faith in us, but we all had faith in her. And yeah, that tasted purple.
All right. And then Paul, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, so if you pulled up, if I was in a game of solo queue and I load in and I see that a Blitz player that historically plays Lux, Nami, Lulu, Soraka, Morgana, Ahri, Thresh has locked in Blitz. I like the Thresh is like so low on the list, right? So I'm like thinking, okay, this Blitz rank, the Blitz isn't even on the list. So the Blitz rank has to be a troll pick. And then the Blitz rank spam hooks everyone. I would say they're scripting boosted or scripting, getting boosted, smurfing, like something. Like it doesn't add up. So the fact that Froggy Fighters were willing to pull out Blitzcrank, which no one else was playing, um, extremely Giga Chad behavior. And then also props to Fleas for playing the champion so mechanically well. But then also, I still have nightmares about the Lux game that you played against us. So multiple champions, multiple styles. Props to you for making all of them work.
All right, and then Faye, it's time to hype yourself up. Come on.
What? The notes I have aren't very hypeful, but so I have myself at 3 instead of 2 because the next player above me, the like 2 players above me, I realize like I get caught out so much, like so much. Just trying to like be aggressive, find a pick, or to get wards down. So yeah, I'm at 3. But yeah,
All
that's
right.
about it.
And I think we'll show 2 and 1 because I think the top 3 were actually all sweeps. So we all have Alturas and Hollow's Eve at number 1 and 2, and I'll start with Hollow's Eve because, and I think this is the only criticism I have for Joey. Joey picks up the slack whenever Rob is slacking a little bit. So basically, whenever Rob is out of position, Joey is there to cover for Rob. And I think in that manner, Garrett is like Joey, where he picks up the slack for Proton Plat player when he's caught out. But I think Joey does it a bit better than Garrett. Or not just that, but like also being really annoying and being everywhere on the map as well. So that's why I have Joey above Garrett. Anything to add on to that, Faye?
No, I agree. Hollow's Eve has been so consistent throughout the whole entire series. They've played it all like 4 or 5 enchanters and has played them very solidly. I actually had the most fun playing against Hollow's Eve, even though we got completely like trashed in the last series, but it was so much fun. They bait a lot for their team, which has won them like so many team fights. It's amazing. They're amazing at their champ, and they definitely deserve number 1. And then Alturas has also like you said, like he's he's like made up for what Proton Plat player has lacked and things like that. He's done a lot for his team, and I think he's a really solid support player. Except, when he lets me go as Lux.
All right. And then Dan?
The muscle memory of seeing a Enchanter support player in solo queue out of position and me playing Aatrox and just like kill, and it's fun and they always die, and then Hollow's Eve is baiting, but you just like can't not do it. It's so I don't know. Every single time I think Hollow's Eve can die, Hollow's Eve does not die. And obviously they're, I think, more importantly, the best laning support, at least in Season 4 of La Liga. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything bad to say. And also Garrett, I think, doesn't get enough credit for how intelligent he is. I think when Garrett uses like 110% of his brain power, he's absolutely insane. He's willing to pick a lot of different things. He's also willing to support a lot of different things. So props to Garrett. And yeah.
All right, and finally, Paul, bring up the rear.
If we talk about the 2 carry system, I didn't discover this until halfway through the season, and like I started inting a lot more in games for some reason. But we had a 2 brain system, and Altruist was the second part of that. If my brain was there telling me go go go, let's fight, Altruist was the one person who was actually calling the fight back. Incredibly smart player. I think his biggest weakness, as well as Broton's, they shared actually, which is positioning. I think he had a tendency to get caught out while warding sometimes, but overall, a very intelligent player. Mechanically gifted, smash lane a few times, got out of crazy positions where it felt like he was completely trapped with the back up against the wall. And what I thought was my greatest clip with the crazy Jarvan engage was actually his Renata ult. So even in game, I did not give the man enough credit, but he was popping off throughout the entire split. And then Hollow's Eve, I've never been more frustrated by an Enchanter player.
Exactly.
I've been baited by solo queue. I've thought like, oh, the Enchanter player is like a monkey without a brain, and I can just kill them here. But as it turns out, Hollow's Eve is just baiting you the entire time and actually knows exactly what you're doing before you're even trying to commit to the fight, and already has 3 members behind them. So horrifying to play into. Hollow's Eve was all over the map, and then like Wujin said, was always there to back up whatever crazy play Rob was going for.
All right. Well, guys, with that is the end of the power rankings, the very last La Liga power ranking. But, hold up, don't leave just yet. We have an announcement from Tim for a future event. Tim.
Hello, everybody. So, it just went live on the server, and I would like to share with everybody Avalanche, our off-season tournament coming up that will be open to all members of Summit Esports currently, as well as people outside the league. You'll be able to build your own teams. You'll have to select 1 team representative to represent your team of 5. We'll be making an additional follow-up announcement this Sunday, giving you more information about how the actual tournament days will be, like what the format's going to look like and how your team's going to be able to accrue points. But we hope that you'll tell your friends about it and get people in here to be involved, and we hope all of you have a great time doing it.
Oh, for the record, we also do have our own Discord link now, so.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
I have a question. Did Tim say build your own team?
Yes, you will be able to enter as a pre-made team of 5.
Nice. Okay, cool.
All right. Well, with that, that's actually the end of Power Rankings. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hopefully the show gets renewed for next season, but we'll see. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Faye, Dan, Paul, for being here for this long-ass 3 hours. So, for last
Thanks
time,
for having me.
thanks for being on La Liga Power Rankings. Have a good night,
You're welcome.
everyone.